Hello, this is Coach Red Pill speaking to you live. This is the weekly webinar number 6. It's great to talk to you guys all once again, and this is going to be called the Improving Yourself During the Quarantine webinar. Before we get started, as usual, I just want to make a quick sound check to make sure that everything sounds okay. If you hear me properly, can you please raise your hand? Oh, great. That's terrific. It's great to see. Oh, there's a couple of John Does. Great. I've been missing John Doe. Thank you all for coming. I very much appreciate it. I hope you enjoy this broadcast. Let me put your hands down. Just real quick to see that everybody's mic is working properly. I'll hit on Mr. Blue. Mr. Blue, how's it going? You there? Hello, Mr. Blue. Mr. Blue, I guess he's not there yet. Okay, let me go to Mattis. Let me unmute Mattis. Mattis, are you there? Hello, Mattis? Oh, I guess not. Let me hit up John M, who has his hand raised, so I'm guessing his microphone is working. John, how's it going? Hello, John. Okay, I think that we're having some sort of technical problem because I'm not hearing you guys. Hang on just a second. Let me just check this to see what is the matter. Damn. Let me hit somebody else because everything on my end seems to be okay. And this is very disconcerting. Let me hit up Mr. Blue again. Maybe his microphone is working. Mr. Blue, or let me put down everybody's hand and raise your hand if you have your microphone set up correctly, if you've got it all set up correctly. So I'll hit on you just to see if you guys can hear me and I can hear you. Jeff, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine. Thank goodness. And let me put down everybody's hand. Raise your hand if you can hear Jeff. Jeff, can you say something? Say something smart.
Hello, everyone. How are you all doing?
Everybody here, Jeff? Raise your hand if you do. Great, Jeff. Thank you so much. Sorry, everybody, for the mild inconvenience. The software is acting up a little bit today. I'm having a little bit of trouble here sharing the slide. Do you guys, on my end, it doesn't say that you guys are seeing the slide. Oh, here. There we go. There we go. There we go. I think that you guys are seeing it now. Once again, I'll put your hands down. Please raise your hands if you properly see the slide right there on your screen. Terrific. Okay, so this is something I should have done weeks ago. And again, once again, please excuse me for this little technical problem. You know, I'm my own producer. If I had a producer, well, it would be a lot smoother. By the way, I hope that my sound is better because I got a dedicated microphone. Before I was using the crappy microphone in my headphones. And now I'm using a dedicated microphone, which I hope will have improved the sound. And yeah, little by little, incrementally, you know, this whole process is going to get a little bit smoother, a little bit better. Okay. Okay. So here's the deal. Improving yourself during the quarantine. This is something I should have done weeks ago. I should have done weeks ago because, of course, this quarantine is going to last for quite some time. It's going to last quite some time. And of course, we're already seeing that it is becoming a political issue. As I told you guys a few weeks ago, that there is this divide between the left and the right, the political left and the political right. The political left wants to stay in lockdown. And of course, a lot of people, especially in the United States, are getting so much more money from government handouts than they would from their regular job that they don't want to go back to work. Because as you guys know, because of the CARES Act, people are getting, on top of the unemployment insurance, which is statewide, they're also getting a supplemental $600 a week from the federal government on top of whatever they're getting from unemployment at the state level. So for a lot of people, it's to their financial benefit to be unemployed because they just hang out at home, you know, watch Netflix and collect a couple of nice checks from the state and the federal government. And it's going to be more than what they were getting from their regular jobs. In fact, there are stories already of people pissed off with their employers because their employers tried to, you know, hold on to the jobs and keep on paying them. And all the employees want to be fired so that they can get the more money from the unemployment insurance and the federal government handout, which I think is just very bad. Anyway, the lockdown has become political, and that means that we're going to be in lockdown for a lot longer. There's also something else going on, which is deeply disturbing, which is in the United States, at least, the governors are feeling their oats. They feel that they have total control and they are acting like little dictators. And instead of having, everybody, all the leftists going like, oh, Trump is a dictator, Trump is a dictator. Well, now you're actually having actual dictators in 50 states, each of these governors dictating how people live their lives and using the police as fucking stormtroopers. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw in Wisconsin, those two cops who went to some lady who had taken her daughter, her small child, to a play date, and the cops were harassing her and basically acting like, goons, secret police shit. It was creepy as fuck. But anyway, the quarantine is going to last a lot longer than anticipated. So this is what's been happening to me. And here's the outline for today's show or today's broadcast. To tell you the truth, I have been pretty depressed during this lockdown. It's taken me actually a while to recognize that I was depressed. Now, my problem is at this time, I'm far away from my kids, whom I miss terribly, and I speak to them as often as I can. But, talking on Skype is not the same thing as being there. My regular work life is very isolating as it is, because as a writer, I've always been used to working by myself for long stretches at a time. That's how you get things done as a writer. And throughout my professional life, there have been times when I've been very busy with a lot of interaction, but there's also been times, such as now, where I see very few people in my day-to-day work life. I see a lot of people in my social life. And so for me, very naturally, this dichotomy has emerged between, I have my social life and my work life has very few people. And I talk to very few people during my work days, and I interact with very few people, if any people, during my work day. It's my social time, in the evenings, the weekends. That's when I socialize and talk to people and have a life. And I thought to myself that this quarantine would not really affect me. But the fact of the matter is that it has, and I'm really surprised. And it was really interesting because this depression has sort of like crept up on me, excuse me. It's crept up on me in the sense that I've been eating too much. My sleep is not very good. I am developing all kinds of little weird things like the last couple of days I had like heart palpitations, which was really weird. And I thought that it might have something to do with the fact that I was drinking too much coffee, caffeine, that kind of thing. I cut out caffeine completely for 3 days and I still had them. And it was kind of like scaring me. And then finally it sort of like went away because I realized that my diet had unconsciously become very imbalanced. I ate a bunch of mandarins and all of a sudden, the heart palpitations were gone. I mean, like permanently gone. And I just realized that because of this quarantine, I'd sort of like been repetitive in my food intake. And I've been eating the same foods and it become nutritionally unbalanced. And, in general, lack of motivation and just being just kind of miserable and spending a lot of time on Netflix, a lot of time just figuratively and literally jerking off. Quite frankly, I'm not going to lie to you guys. And I'm sure that a lot of you have gone through the same thing. And so it made me recognize that if I'm feeling a little bit depressed and I'm in pretty good shape to handle this kind of quarantine, I bet a lot of other people are really depressed. And as this continues and as this becomes a political issue, and the political issue meaning that people are sort of like shut in, forcibly shut in, you're going to get more depressed. And so I thought to myself that this would be a good time to see how you can do two things really. Number one, avoid or assuage any feelings of depression. And number two, and more importantly in this thing, is to improve yourself during this quarantine. Because it really is a unique moment in our lives, not just history and all that shit, but in our lives. We are stuck at home. We are stuck at home whether we like it or not. And so it would be smart to start using our time more wisely. Because a quick show of hands, okay? You guys who are watching this, a quick show of hands, let me just get to the attendees list. I'm gonna put all your hands down. Don't raise your hand until you've heard my question in full. My question in full is, How many of you have been blowing your time and wasting it even with the best of intentions? Okay. Oh, quite a few. Quite a few of you have been just blowing your time and wasting it even with the best of intentions, right? Okay, a quick show of hands. Again, I'm putting you all down. How many I'm putting everybody down. How many have been wasting time on television or Netflix or any kind of filmed entertainment? I'll get to video games in a little bit. How many have been watching movies, Netflix, watching movies that you already saw and that you know are kind of stupid, but you just saw them anyway, and you're like, okay, that's all I'm going to do. Yeah? Okay. Put your hands down. How many watched video games? How many played rather video games? Incessantly played video games that you didn't even like, video games that you were like bored with, even just video games. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now here's the hard question. If you don't want to answer it, that's perfectly fine, because I'm going to ask you to raise your hand for this question. It might be a personal question. How many of you guys feel depressed? How many of you guys, hand to heart, and it's just between us girls. By the way, this is not going to be in the recording, so nobody's going to see your name or whether you raise your hand or not. This is strictly here. Yeah, so quite a few of you guys have felt depressed. I'm not gonna lie, I've felt depressed as hell, okay? And so I thought that this is the time to be talking about how to get out of this and how to use this time wisely. How to use this time wisely in the sense of like doing something with your time that will give you some benefit, as opposed to just squandering away your time, just blowing the days watching Netflix and playing video games. Okay, you're going to need two things to start with. Number one is a spreadsheet, and number two is a notebook. Okay. A spreadsheet, Microsoft Excel, whatever you use. I use Excel, usually use Excel, or also I use Apple's Numbers, which is actually a fairly decent little spreadsheet program. I mean, it's simple, it's easy to use and fast, okay? You get a spreadsheet, okay? And a notebook. You know those Moleskine notebooks, the ones that cost like 15 bucks, and you're like, what the fuck am I blowing 15 bucks on a fucking notebook? Right. Get one of those, okay? I personally like the ones that are like just all plain paper, not lined, but get whatever is, lined or squared or dotted or blank, okay? Get one of those. And also, I don't get Moleskine. I like the slightly wider ones. I don't know what it's called, and I don't have it right here in front of me, the Luchterhand or something like that. It's some German make, Lechterhand or something like that. Anybody in the questions, if you guys know what's the name of it, it slips my mind just now. Okay, it's Luchterhand or something like that. Okay, or Luchtern, or it doesn't matter. It's L German. Okay, and it's one of these notebooks. It's very nice. And oh, John Doe is saying it's the best time of my life. Well, good on you, John. But anyway, I want you to get those two things, a spreadsheet and a notebook where you can write, physically write. Okay. Now, you have to realize that you have different necessities, and you have to focus on those necessities to have a complete life. The Romans said, "A mens sana in corpore sano," which means literally healthy mind and a healthy body. You have to focus on 4 areas of your life: your body, your mind, your social life, and your soul. Now, of course, when I say your soul, I don't mean in the literal sense. I personally do not believe in a soul. I do not believe in that notion, but I do believe that there is like some inherent specific thing about us that makes us us through time, okay? You don't have to debate it. You just like spirit, like vibe, feel, soul, call it what you will. It's not important to define it. It's just important to have a sense of what we're talking about, separate from the mind and separate from the body, okay? Now, the 4 things that you want to focus on is your body, your mind, your social life, and your soul. And you want to be working on them at the same time, and you want to be keeping track of them, okay? You're going to use your spreadsheet to keep track of what you are doing in each of those 4 areas. And you're going to use your notebook to write out by hand what you want to achieve in each one of those 4 areas, okay? Because see, it's really easy to fall into the trap of just enumerating and quantifying what you are doing with your life. how many calories you're eating a day. That's easy. Just, oh, I'm eating this, you write down X number of calories. I'm eating that, you write the Y number of calories, and so on. And it's easy to quantify like the number of squats that you're doing, the number of push-ups that you're doing. It's easy to quantify how many pages you're reading per day. How many new books that you've purchased that you're reading. That stuff is easy in terms of quantifying. But see, there's this great saying from Thomas Pynchon. He says, if they can get you to ask the wrong questions, they don't need to worry about the answers, which is very true. What you want to use your notebook for is to ask the right questions. The right question is always why. Why am I doing X, whatsoever it is? Okay? Always think of it in those terms. You want to be thinking, why am I improving my body, losing weight, eating right, exercising? Why am I reading more books? Why am I cutting out time sucks? Because I'm reading from the enumerated things that I have told you to do, right? Why am I doing each of these things? Because it will lead you to a happier life. Because especially if you're blue and depressed during this period of time, which is very easy to fall into, you want to start thinking, how do I get out of it? Okay? And the way to get out of it is always incrementally. There's never such thing as a quick fix. Everybody always wants a quick fix because we're all lazy, but there's no such thing as a quick fix. Everything takes time. But the funny thing is that it takes surprisingly little amount of time. In 30 days, you can turn your life around, seriously turn it around, okay? And I've seen it in my own life, both pro and con, okay? They've been, first of the months that have been great, and then by the 30th, I'm ready to slit my wrists, and my life is a complete shambles, and vice versa. I've started the first of the month a disaster, and by the end of the month, I'm aces, okay? And so you have to be thinking of that, and you have to be writing down in the notebook the why. Why do you want to achieve something? What's the goal, okay? And that takes a lot of thought and effort. And that's why you want to have a notebook, so you can start writing on the notebook what you're trying to achieve in each area of your life, okay? Like for instance, let's take the first one. The first one that you should be focusing on is obviously your body. Mens sana in corpore sano. That's a healthy mind and a healthy body. You want to get your body in shape, healthy. But why do you want that? Do you want to be like a Mr. Universe? Or do you want to just be in good shape so that your mind is working properly and that you feel relatively good about your body physically? What's your goal? Why do you want to improve your body? Okay? And this is a fair question. And by the way, never be afraid to ask a why question, see? Because you might have forgotten the answer and you need to remember it. Or also, sometimes you might be doing something that might not be worthwhile, but you're doing it anyway because you have not stopped and asked yourself why you are doing something, okay? So never be afraid to ask why. The truth will always shine clear, okay? So never be afraid to ask why. What you want to be doing is you want to be losing weight. You want to be eating right, and you want to be exercising, but all of them incrementally, okay? Because there's this notion that, oh, I want to lose weight right away, and then you do something violent to your body and it doesn't work, okay? It doesn't work, or it gives a short-term fix rather than a long-term solution. For example, me specifically, a few years ago, I did a water fast for 13 days, right? And I dropped from, I think it was 89 kilos to 78 kilos, right? Roughly 20 pounds. And 20 pounds in 13 days, right? And it was pretty heavy, right? It was pretty funny. My girlfriend at the time told me that she felt that I was thinner. Yeah, and the thing is, see, I dropped that weight, but relatively quickly, I recovered most of that weight. And in fact, now I'm a fat pig. I'm at 90 kilos. And over the month of April, I've tried to go down in weight, but for reasons I didn't achieve that, but I'm going to try again in May. But anyway, the point is, see, you want to be losing weight. Why? Because a lot of times when you're carrying extra weight, it just weighs you down. Sorry for the pun, it's unintended, but I meant in a metaphorical sense. You feel slower, you feel heavy, you feel exhausted of carrying the extra weight. That's why you want to lose weight. You want to be eating right, because when you start to eat right, you very naturally start to feel better about your body, because a lot of the processed foods, a lot of the foods with artificial sweeteners and sugars and whatnot, especially sugar, it makes you feel like shit. It's basically like heroin, a low grade form of heroin, of course, but you feel rotten, you feel yuck, but you're used to it because you're addicted to it. And so you have to start eating right, eating healthy vegetables, raw fruits, and slowly you're going to be detoxing your body. And it's going to be just like a heroin junkie coming off smack. It's going to be very unpleasant for a while. Who watched Trainspotting? Okay. Trainspotting, yeah, when the Mark Renton character, the character played by Ewan McGregor, he got off heroin and he freaked out in his childhood bedroom. Yeah, exactly. You're gonna feel rotten, and you gotta work past that. Eat right, and you gotta be exercising. Now, exercising in particular is very interesting because a lot of guys sort of like go for broke. They go for broke in the sense of like trying to do everything right away. And what you should do is just take it easy, take it slow, okay? Don't run 5 miles the first day. Don't even bother running. Take like a swift walk for a mile on the first day. And the second day, you go for a very light jog of that 1 mile. And then slowly, incrementally raise the stakes. Just a little bit every day. Go for a slow jog on the second day, and on the third day, go for a ever so slightly quicker jog, but not as fast as you can go. That's not the point. The point is not reaching the limits of what you can do on the very first day, because if you do that, you'll be exhausted and you won't be able to continue. And the point is, of course, to continue and to do it every day. And then slowly, each day, you're coming closer and closer to your limits. And as you get closer to your limits, by the very fact that you're being consistent about your exercise, you're going to be pushing those limits forward. And that's the goal. The goal is not to run smack into your limits, to push yourself so hard on the very first day that you reach your limit. No, because you do that, you're going to be wiped out. You want to be gradually, incrementally raising the stakes. And by doing so incrementally, it won't be a shock to your body. And your limits, you will never actually crash into them, but rather you will slowly increase them. And that's the goal, okay? Now, the body is actually the easiest thing to do, the easiest thing to improve during this time of quarantine. You don't need equipment. A lot of guys fall into the stupid habit of like, oh, if I don't have the gear, I don't have the weights, I don't have this or that or the other, I can't do it. Yes, you can. Push-ups, cardios like running in place or jumping and stuff like that, squats. There are all kinds of different activities that you can do that you don't need any equipment. But what you should be doing is writing them down each and every day that you do stuff on your spreadsheet. Okay, let me just change here. I hope that this will appear. There we go. Yeah, I think it's appearing. Okay, this is an example. It's a simple example, okay? Like, for instance, here, I hope you can see it. Let me see if it's, I'm just making it a little bit bigger there so you guys can see it. The idea is on the left-hand column are the days, May 4th on through the end of the month up to May 31st. This is just a hypothetical, of course. And on the top row, you've got body, mind, social life, soul. And I'll get to each of them in turn, but I just want to show you the idea behind this simple spreadsheet, because this is really fucking simple. This is no trick at all. But this way you can keep track of what you're doing. And every day that you do something, you write it. And like, for instance, you ran like a kilometer, right? And you write it down. Okay, I ran a kilometer for cardio, right? And you keep it there, and hell, for the sake of argument, you can make it blue, make it seem like you're actually doing some improvement. Let me just do that real quick. There we go. And let's make this like a big, nice bold, and make it a little bigger so that it stands out, okay? And there you go. And it seems it's gonna feel like you're achieving something, okay? And that's the point. That feeling of every day, it's all blues, right? You're doing like 1 kilometer weights, or 1 kilometer cardio, and like you're doing 100 reps, say, of your weights, right? And you're doing 50 pages per day, right? And your trade studies, you're doing, say, 2 hours every day. And I'm going to get to that in just a second. But you see the point. See, you want that row for each day to be all blue. And of course, at first, it's not going to be possible. At first, you're only going to have like maybe 1 or 2 reds and a bunch, 1 or 2 blues rather, and a bunch of reds. But the idea here is for you to be trying to get them all blues, but realistically. Okay, you want to have realistic targets for each of the things that you're trying to improve. And what are the things that you're trying to improve? To go back to the outline here. Well, your body, okay, that's losing weight, eating right, doing exercises, right? And there's also your mind. Now, your mind is a tougher nut to crack, okay? A tougher nut to crack in the sense that, see, it's easy to quantify exercise. It's easy to quantify your food intake. It's easy to count up how many vitamins you're taking and how many nutrients you're getting from the foods that you're eating. That's easy. But your mind, it's tougher, okay? Because sometimes your mind needs to rest, needs to indulge in the time suck of a movie or a video game. Sometimes you need that. But a lot of times you're just throwing your time away. You're putting your mind, you're not growing, okay? There are lots of guys who say that when they're doing some particular time suck like video games or movies or whatever, that they're actually like learning something or some shit like that. And we know that that's bullshit, okay? You're just throwing your time away, which is fine under certain circumstances. At the end of the day, when you just want to zone out for an hour or so, that's perfectly fine. But if it's 5 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, come on, okay? Come on, we know better, yeah? Yeah, cut out the time sucks like porn, video games, movies, TV. Just cut them out or quarantine them. Quarantine them and only allow yourself, say, an hour of these time sucks per day. And the rest of the time, use it productively. Now, for me, reading is the best medicine. I personally don't like to read on a tablet or a phone because for some reason, it doesn't stick in my head as clearly as when I read an actual book. But that's me. It doesn't matter. Okay. If it works for you, read a tablet. It doesn't matter. Whatever works for you is fine. But you set yourself a goal every day. My goal every day is 50 pages of whatever book. I don't always achieve this. Sometimes life gets in the way. For instance, today, Sunday, I haven't read a single page, okay? And I'm gonna write it down on my spreadsheet because I do have a spreadsheet, and I'm gonna write it down as a big red 0, and it's gonna be very unpleasant. And is it gonna be the first red 0 that I have on that particular column? No, I've done it other days and I didn't like it. But you see the point, because when I do read, when I do get my reading in, it feels that much better. You know, that blue 50 is beautiful as opposed to the red 0. But read everything. It doesn't matter what you read so long as it's 2 things. It's intelligently written. It's not a bunch of bullshit, number 1. And number 2, you are not reading the same thing over and over again. Example, there are a lot of guys who love World War II and they read about World War II, and that's perfectly fine. But every fucking book that they read is about fucking World War II. Now, you're basically reading the same goddamn book. Okay, fine. Instead of this book, it's talking about the tank wars of the Western Front, and this other book is the tank wars of the Eastern Front, but it's the same fucking thing, right? Do you know anything about Byzantine history? Yeah, no, yay or nay? Probably not, because you're focused just on the one topic, World War II. Read everything. Force yourself and identify those things that you don't know. Force yourself to read those things that you don't know, because you will get more out of those things. For example, at this time, I'm reading about the Byzantine Empire, okay? That's the Eastern Roman Empire. Once Constantine decided to divide the empire, the Roman Empire, between Rome and Constantinople. And I'm reading about the Byzantine Empire. Now, the reason I'm reading about the Byzantine Empire is because I started reading about the Crusades. I didn't know anything about the Crusades. And I mean, I knew what the Crusades were roughly, but I didn't know how many there were, what was the point of them, how it happened, what was going on. I didn't have any clue. And so I started reading the history of what we call it, the Crusades. And by reading about the Crusades, I started getting interested in the Byzantine Empire because so much of it involved King Alexios of the Byzantine Empire in the late 11th century and all kinds of stuff going on. It was really fascinating stuff. And so I figured that I'm going to have to read about that too. And so I'm reading about that, and I'm plugging a hole in my knowledge of history that, here I am 52 years old and finally plugging that thing, you see? And there's nothing wrong with that. On the contrary, you should be trying to plug the holes in your knowledge. You don't have to be an expert at everything, but you want to get a sense of stuff. One of the books I tend to read whenever, I'm never reading one single book at a time. I usually read anywhere between 3 and 8 books at any given moment, okay? And one of the books I always have at any time is sort of like a book that is telling me where the state of science is in any particular topic. For instance, right now, I'm reading a book called Why We Sleep by a guy called Walker, I believe his name is. And I think it's Walker, it doesn't matter, but it's a new book and it talks about sleep and the current scientific theories and discoveries of sleep. It's really fascinating. Now, I didn't know anything about it. I mean, zero. I mean, I know what REM sleep is, but other than that, I didn't know anything. And so I wanted to read this specifically because it would teach me something about the current science of it. I also recently read a book about the current science on dinosaurs. I always loved dinosaurs, like every boy loves dinosaurs, right? But growing up, I didn't pay attention. And now I read this book. It was really very, very good. That it was called The Dinosaurs Rediscovered. And this book sort of like taught me where the current state of thinking is insofar as dinosaurs is concerned. It took me, at a 50-page a day rhythm, it took me, I don't know, 6 days to read it. No big deal. No big deal, but I got a lot out of it. And the most important thing is that, see, the more you read, it automatically improves a whole bunch of things. First of all, your grammar improves, your word usage improves, and generally your mind stretches. And it's a hard discipline. It's as hard as working out every day. There are lots of guys who can work out every day, and they don't think to themselves that reading every day is the same thing. But that's what you have to do. If you're doing, arm curls, 10 reps, 5 sets of 10 reps of arm curls, right? Well, it's the same thing. You just got to stick to it, and you got to power through and make your 50 pages every day. That's the thing. See, your mind is a muscle. Your mind is a muscle that you have to exercise, and you have to exercise it with the right things, okay? You have to feed it the right books. Just as with your body, you eat the right foods, fresh vegetables, lean meats, fruits, relatively little carbs, and grains and whatnot, and you exercise right and you take care of your form. The same way you do that with your body, you have to do that with your mind insofar as reading is concerned. Because screens are not the same as reading a book. A screen, if you watch a video, you are the passive recipient of that information. And there is a great difference between being the passive recipient of information as opposed to being a reader where you have to go out and read the fucking thing. You see? A book that's 300 pages long, you can't just set it in the background. Some people do the audiobook thing. I think that that's a mistake. Because an audiobook, again, you are a passive recipient. But when you read, you have to be reading, thinking. Because to read takes thought. To listen is passive. To watch is passive. To read is active. You have to be looking at the words, deciphering what those odd little shapes mean. Your mind has to be constantly looking at these odd little shapes, deciphering their meaning, and stringing together all these weird little squiggles on the page and coming to an understanding of what the author is trying to tell you. Of course, we've done it so many times since we were 6 years old or 5 years old or whenever it is we learned to read. We've done it so many times that we don't think of it in those terms, but that's what it is. And every time you're looking at a word and trying to decipher that word, your brain is working. It's exercising. No different from, doing push-ups or pull-ups or running, 5 miles. It's exactly the same thing, only for your head. That's why you want to be reading, not listening, no audiobooks. It's perfectly fine if you want to do an audiobook on top of your reading, but stick to 50 pages of reading, of hard reading, of looking at it. Don't pick books that bore you, of course. When I say hard reading, I don't mean in the sense of like books that are tedious and boring and stupid and difficult. No, I'm not telling you go out and read 50 pages of Hegel. No, I'm telling you read 50 pages of anything. Sometimes you want to read like some silly novel. One of the books I'm reading now is Dune, which is, it's so cringy, by the way. I mean, I read that damn thing when I was like 14 years old, and 14 years old, science fiction, sure, I thought it was great. Now I kind of cringe. Okay, I mean, it's actually kind of hard to read, not because it's a difficult book to read. It's very easy to read. But the problem is that so many scenes, I find them so goddamn cringy, man. But that's another conversation. The point, don't think that you have to read quote unquote hard books. Read books that you want to read, that are interesting to you. One of the books I'm reading right now, I have it right here in front of me, is called Other Minds by a guy called Peter Godfrey Smith. It's the subtitle, The Octopus and the Evolution of Intelligent Life. It's really about the octopus, okay? I'm not kidding around. It's a fucking fascinating book, a lot of goddamn fun. It basically says that intelligence evolved at least twice on the earth independently. And once was the octopus and the other is human beings. And it's really interesting, and it talks about octopi, or I guess octopi is the correct. It's a really great book. And I just started reading it, so I can't tell you much more about it. I'm only on page 40 of the thing, right? I'll finish it in a few days, and I'll post something on Instagram. But the point is, see, reading a book like this, it's fun. And that's what you want to be doing, reading fun books, okay? Books that are informative, books that can teach you, books that you can learn something, but make them fun. Don't make them, you don't want to be reading a book that it's like pulling teeth. What's the point of that? No, you want to be reading books that you find interesting, not that somebody else finds interesting. I find this octopus book really interesting. Maybe you don't. Maybe you find it boring. That's perfectly fine. Okay? Read what you find interesting, but always with an eye to learning more information about the world, because ultimately that's what you're doing. You want to be learning about other things in the reality around you. Okay? A lot of times in print, in a book, a thoughtful man, a thoughtful writer will be able to give you more in a book than he could like on a video or in an interview or some conversation like that. That's why you want to be reading books, okay? Now, the other thing you want to be doing is learning more about your trade. Now, whatever your trade is, okay? I mean, you can be a neurosurgeon or you can be a carpenter. You can be whatever. It doesn't matter what your trade is. But you use this time now during the quarantine to learn more about it. You'd be surprised how ignorant a lot of us are about the trade that we do. Either the nitty-gritty of the trade, we're not that sophisticated about how the trade that we practice, that we earn a living at, we don't know that much information about it on the one hand, and sometimes we don't see where we fit in the overall scheme of business and what our work in our trade represents to other businesses. You see what I mean? Let me give you a specific example. Here I am, I'm a YouTuber, right? I'll use this as an example. A lot of times, I don't know about ways that I could be putting out my videos to a wider audience that are apart from YouTube. Why? Because I don't have the time to do it, or I didn't have the time to do it. I didn't have the time to investigate if there are other avenues whereby I could put my content and create revenue streams, for instance, for my content on other parallel platforms, be it Facebook, be it whatever. I've heard of one called Library. You guys, somebody here recommended I check out Library. I'm checking it out. But you see, I have failed so far, and I am doing it now, of looking at other things in my trade, that is as a YouTuber, learning more about it. And at the same time, I'm proactively looking at all the other different kinds of YouTubers to see what they are doing and how they succeed in their business of being a YouTuber, okay? And so you see my point. It's sort of like, look at what you are doing to see how you can improve, learn more about how to improve your trade, whatsoever that trade may be. And at the same time, study the sort of like the adjacent areas of your trade, where your trade fits in the whole world. Because that way you can learn more, and by learning more, because you have the time to learn more, you can improve your earning potential. You can make yourself more efficient in your trade. You can potentially find points of contact with other people, perhaps outside of your milieu, but adjacent to it, that could be extremely beneficial to both them and to you. And you see my point, because a lot of times we wind up in a rut of doing something, and we do it day after day, and we get a paycheck, and we figure, well, I don't have to worry more because, I'm getting a paycheck. But now is the time to sort of like at once look up and look around yourself to see what's going on with other people around you, and look in at what you are doing and trying to figure out how to make it better, more efficient, easier, more effective. You see? Now, the final thing that I would recommend, something that happened to me when I was in college, and to tell you the truth, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I took a course on formal logic, okay? Formal logic, that is deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, with the little letters, A and B, that kind of thing. Okay, formal logic. If I were you, I'd study it, because I've forgotten most of it. But retrospectively, I realized that it has been the most effective thing that I ever learned in college, because it taught me to think rationally. And the specifics of formal logic I have forgotten, but the tools that it taught me in terms of thinking, that's something that I really, really appreciate. There are books of formal logic that you can pick up on Amazon, and they're called Formal Logic or An Introduction to Formal Logic. And it's the one with the little letters, okay? That's what it is. And you want to pick up a basic book on that and study it. That's a book that is really worth reading, because it really does improve the mind. Because see, these books that I'm telling you about, that you should read and all the rest of it, right? And cutting out your time sucks and focusing on improving your mind, that's all good and fine. But you need to know how to focus this learning. And with logic, you can do that. Logic can teach you how to figure out what's true and what's false, what sounds superficially accurate but actually isn't. It teaches you to think more carefully. And by thinking more carefully, often you will see opportunities in business, okay? Opportunities in improving your life and making more money. It just gives you more creativity, because it forces you to think more carefully about things. And that's why I suggest you study it, okay? Now, going to social life, several people asked me to do this, to talk about this, about networking, right? I did a pretty famous video called How to Work a Room that a lot of people really appreciate. I'm really glad. And they're talking about networking, and when I put up the question of like what to talk about this week, a lot of people ask, networking, how to network. That's a really good question. But before you start to the issue of how to network, you want to ask yourself, why are you networking? Now, this is not so simple a question as it would seem, okay? Because you see, when you're networking, okay, like for instance, suppose for the sake of argument, you get dropped into a room full of people, okay? They're all strangers to you. And you're a smooth talker, right? You're a smooth talker, you got a few jokes up your sleeve and whatnot, and you start talking to people and charming them, and you're talking a mile a minute, and you talk to this group of people and that group of people, and you have drinking your drink and having a few hors d'oeuvres and smiling and charming everybody, and it's a big room, but you work the whole room, right? And at the end you're done, and all these people, these strangers, right? They're in a totally different line of work than you are, and what they are interested in and the reason that they're all gathered has nothing whatsoever to do with you. So you were this Very, very smooth, charming guy with a room full of people who, in the long run, and not even the long run, the short run, mean absolutely nothing to you. How effective was that? You see? You got to figure out why you're networking. What's the goal of it? Mhm. Because by knowing why you want to network, you will discover whom you want to network with. Okay? Because what is networking? Networking is getting to know people and getting them to know you enough that they have a good opinion of you so that at some future time, you can call on them and hopefully they will help you out in a mutually beneficial way. That's the point of networking. Because the fact of the matter is, most of your opportunities in life will come from the people that you network with. Most of the time, the people you know in your line of work, in your business, and whatever the milieu is, they will hear of opportunities and they will tell you about it. And there's a reason that they tell you about it. It's not that they're such great people. No, no, no. Lots of times they will hear some opportunity and it won't fit them, but they know it'll fit you. And so they will tell you about it and they will tell you, check out this opportunity and don't forget who sent you. See, that's the key issue. See, I know of some opportunity that could help you that means nothing to me, but could help you. I will tell you about it because I know it'll help you. And I will try to emphasize to you to remember me in the future when you come across an opportunity that means nothing to you, but can be helpful to me. You see what I mean? You see the point of networking? You're networking so that more opportunities are directed to you. Because since we are social creatures and most businesses, the vast majority of businesses are composed of relatively few players, relatively few meaning, less than 1,000. Most businesses, yeah, I'm talking most industries are relatively few people. There are not that many people in most industries. It seems like a lot when you're on the outside, but you have to think to yourself that there are so many industries, and when you start adding up the people in the industry that you're in, you realize that there are relatively few players. Make the exercise. If you're in some business, whatsoever that business may be, start counting up the people who are in that business. The heads of the companies or whatever it is, whatever industry you're in, you'll find out that there are relatively few people. They're a relatively small set. And so people naturally are gregarious, naturally are social. And so we come in contact with the people who are in the same line of work because ultimately we come in contact with them and talk to them because they know our problems. They know what's going on. The problems that we have, they have. They have them now, or maybe they might have had them in the past. And so you're going to be networking. Why? Because you want to ascend in a certain milieu. And so that's why you want to be thinking, why am I networking? Because I want to improve what aspect of my life? Because a lot of times you'll say, well, I'm obviously going to be networking because of my business. Yeah, but by the same token, see, you can think of networking as improving your dating life. You can think of networking as improving your social life, quite apart from your business life and quite apart from your dating life. See, networking is a tool. It's for you to approach different groups of people and improve their perception of you within that group of people. Okay? That's what networking is. So you network so that other people think better of you. You charm them and you tell them about the things that you have done that show that you're not entirely stupid. Okay? Yeah, you're showing off, but you got to do it subtly. But you are networking so that other people think highly of you and they will send opportunities your way. I'll give you a great example of this. One time in my social life, I was hanging out with this woman, a very, very attractive woman. She was married, and she was married to a guy that when I met her through work, and I didn't realize that she was married to a guy who had gone to high school with me. Okay, he hadn't been in my class, in my homeroom, if you will, but I knew of him and he knew of me. And because of this, we got together. This woman, her husband, we went to dinner, And she brought along a friend, and this friend was a model. She was fucking hot as blazes, right? She was a Uruguayan model. Her name was Andrea. I'm not going to get into the details. She was goddamn hot, right? She was like, and exactly my type, like 5'9", skinny, hot, just my type, just my kind of nightmare. Anyway, yeah, and so this girl that had met this woman, right? Her name was Paola. In our social interaction, in my networking with her, because I networked with her, we wound up getting together, and she put me in touch with this very attractive woman, Andrea, right? Whom I never would have met otherwise. And of course, Paola, first of all, she was straight, okay, and she was married, so she didn't want to bang Andrea. Andrea was just her friend, okay? And so she was sending her my way. You see? You see how networking works? Because that's the whole point of it. You help me, I help you. I show you my value, and you will send opportunities my way. And you show me your value, and I will send opportunities your way. You see how it works? That's the point of networking. So you have to figure out, that while you're networking, who do you want to network? Who are the people that you want to have a good opinion of you? Do you want the whole world to think that you're wonderful? No, of course not. That's kind of stupid. You want a specific group of people to think that you're great. You don't need the whole world to think you're great. Just a specific group of people who can help you to get the opportunities that you want. That's what you want to do. That's whom you network with. Of course, you have to decide what area of life, in my life, am I trying to improve? Am I trying to improve, my social life, my professional life, my dating life? You see? So that's how you do it. And then finally, the issue is, how do you network with these people? Okay. Well, what you have to do is you have to go to their social gatherings. You have to go to their social gatherings, and in networking, in all kinds of networking, whatsoever the subject is, professional life, social life, romantic life. See, less is more. Okay? Less is more. What you want to do is you want to, every time that you interact, make a strong positive interaction, but not relentlessly. There are some guys who tend to monopolize a situation. I'm one of those guys, by the way. I tend to talk and talk because I'm talkative. I'm talkative and I love talking to everybody. But also, I'm very, people tend to forgive me because I love talking to everybody, including people who are not particularly important. And sometimes I will sort of like kill time in a party or a cocktail party or a situation or a dinner party, talking extensively to somebody who does not matter, okay? And I do it because I like to talk to everybody, no matter how important or unimportant they might happen to be. And I've noticed that people like the fact that I will talk to the unimportant people in any kind of gathering, the people who don't have much sway. Because the people who don't have much sway, they're usually ignored in any kind of social gathering. And so if you interact with them and talk to them and shoot the shit with them and have a laugh with them, if it's only for 5 minutes, right? You come across as much more level-headed and down to earth, not like such a climber. Because those guys who only try to talk to the quote unquote important people at some cocktail party or whatever, they always come across as climbers. But when you see a guy who's talking to the important guy, to the important people, and very animated, but then later, 5 minutes later, you happen to spot him talking to the least important person at the cocktail party and being as equally animated, you say to yourself, oh, he's not a climber, he's just a guy who likes to talk. That's how I tend to come across, which is actually to my benefit. Because since I talk to everyone at some gathering or some cocktail party or whatever, there is never the sense that I'm climbing, okay? So you have to be careful about that on the one hand. But on the other hand, you don't want to be wasting all your time, as I tend to do, with every Tom, Dick, and Harry who comes across. You want to be focusing your attention. And so what you want to be doing is focus on the top tier people who matter, and sort of like on the second tier people who might not matter immediately and directly, but you want to leave a good impression, okay? Now, how do you leave a good impression? By talking to them in a way that shows them that you know what you're talking about, whatsoever the topic may be. You want to come across as a guy whose judgment is good, solid. He's a solid guy insofar as his judgment is concerned. There are a lot of guys who will go to some cocktail party, for instance, or some get together where people are talking, okay? Because this isn't like in some party or some club. You can't talk at a party. You can't talk at a club. I'm talking a dinner party. I'm talking a cocktail party, that kind of situation. There are some guys who are blowhards, and everybody realizes it real soon. You always want to be careful that you're not a blowhard. And you always want to be careful that you're not a bore, okay? You don't want to be boring. You want to entertain people. You want to entertain them and tell them a story that's quick and to the point and makes them laugh. You don't want to bore them with some endless story. Like, I remember one time, I think it was 2 years ago. No, maybe 3 years ago. I'm not sure. But anyway, I think it was 2 years ago. Anyway, what happened was that, oh wait, no, it was 4 years ago. You see my point? That kind of intro is, you want to throttle the guy because he's fucking boring. Can't even make up his mind when the fuck it happened, when it doesn't even matter. Yeah, I mean, who cares when the fucking story happened? It happened 2 years ago. It happened yesterday. Who gives a shit? Get to the story, okay? Always get to the story. Never bore people. And at the same time, never be a blowhard. A blowhard is a guy who comes across like he knows everything, even when he's face to face with somebody who actually knows what the fuck he's talking about, right? And the blowhard acts like, oh no, I know better than you. Nobody likes a blowhard. And more importantly, professionally speaking, a blowhard, people want to know who the blowhard is in order to avoid him. They will avoid him like the fucking plague, okay? I mean, it's as simple as that. And so you want to not be the blowhard, and you don't want to be the bore, okay? It's okay if you're not a superstar, conversationally speaking, okay? Because there are some guys who just shine in a dinner party or a cocktail party because they're funny, they're witty, they're just electric, right? And they just have it. Most of those guys, by the way, who have it, they practiced it. They practiced it real hard. And so here comes the issue of how to get good at networking. See, how do you get good at anything is you don't try to play pro first time around. No, you start in the minor leagues, right? Yeah, you start in college ball, T-ball or whatever the fuck. I have no idea what the echelons are in baseball, bad metaphor, but you know what I'm saying. You start with a minor league. Insofar as networking is concerned, what you want to do is, if you're not sure about it, you want to get together socially with any group of some hobby that you might have. It doesn't matter what the hobby is, and interact with those people. Now, you got to keep in mind, all of this is in-person interaction. Right now we're in quarantine, so obviously this isn't happening. But when when this is over and things get back to normal or semi-normal, as the case may be, you want to be practicing networking. And how do you practice it? You practice it by face-to-face interaction with people in areas that are not crucial in your life. For instance, a crucial area of your life would be your business, right? You want to network with the other players in your business. A crucial area of your life would be like the dating market. You want to be, that's important to you, right? The women you date and whatnot, right? But like, for instance, suppose, just for the sake of argument, that you play Cards Against Humanity or some stupid shit like that, and they have like a local meetup, okay? Now, the Cards Against Humanity, these people are strangers to you. I'm assuming, whoa, wait a second, hang on. I got some weird music going on. Hang on just a moment. Okay, sorry about that. I got freaked out and just totally tossed off my game because all of a sudden I had like a bunch of music going on in my ear that I didn't know what the fuck that was. So sorry about that. So anyway, as I was saying, suppose that there's some local convention of Cards Against Humanity. By the way, just to make sure, because I'm paranoid, raise your hand if you can still hear me. If you can be so kind as to raise your hand if you can still hear me, thank you so much, okay? I don't know what the fuck happened. All of a sudden, some random song started playing on my Google Chrome. And so I shut it off. I don't know what the fuck happened. Anyway, the point, you want to practice networking. And how do you practice networking? Very simple. You practice networking by going to the minor leagues. The minor leagues would be interacting with people in person in some area that is not crucial to your life. I brought up the example of Cards Against Humanity. I mean, if you're a professional player of Cards Against Humanity, I don't even know if that's possible, but suppose it is, well, then, of course, that would be very important milieu for you, professionally speaking. But of course, if you're not, if you're just like a regular guy with a regular job, it's not important. You go there to those meetings and you try to charm everybody at that little meeting. You try to charm them and talk to them. That's how you practice. Because in everything in life, you have to practice. You want to get good at something, you got to practice. This brings me to the issue of how to improve your dating, okay? Now, one of the things I've noticed about a lot of guys who are out there dating is that they throw themselves against they try to crack the toughest nut. They go up to the hottest thing on wheels, and of course they blow it, and they freak out, and right. Okay, so this is what you have to do. What you have to do, especially when you're not very good, and I'm actually going to be doing a video about this that I'm going to be releasing on the CRP channel, but what you want to do to improve your dating is very simple. You got to ask yourself hand to heart, what are you? Are you a 5, a 6 on a 10 scale, right? I mean, be honest, right? You clean yourself up, you get yourself a nice haircut whenever this fucking quarantine ends. You get a nice haircut, you're wearing nice clothes, right? And you look at yourself in the mirror and you honestly evaluate yourself, okay? Looks, what are you? Are you a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? You know, but be honest, okay? You mark down what you are in terms so far as looks, and personality, you're whatever. Say you're a 6 in looks and 7 personality, okay, just for the sake of argument. Okay, so you figured yourself, yeah, you're 6.5. And so who do you date? Or let me phrase it, who do you start to date in this process of improving your dating skills? You don't date a girl who's a 6.5. And you don't date a girl who's a 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. No. You date a 4. Yeah. You start with easy girls. Easy girls not in the sense of that they're sexually available, but easy in the sense that you don't want to impress them. They're not girls that you see yourself with a future. And what you do is that you start dating them and texting them and dating them and all the rest, the whole shebang, in terms of trying out things that work and improving that which works and jettisoning that which does not. When you work out, like physically work out, you know, like bodybuilding, right? Do you go for the 60-pound barbell? Of course you do not. No, of course that'd be crazy. See, if you have not worked out in like a long time or ever, trying to, you know, curl a 60-pound barbell would be insane. What do? You go with a 10-pound or 15-pound barbell, right? And you curl those for a couple of weeks, and then you incrementally rise up to 15 pounds. Do those for a few weeks and rise up to 20 pounds, and so on as the weeks glide by. And eventually, after 6 months or a year or something, you're curling 60 pounds, no problem. It would have been insane for you to do it first time at bat, right? So you don't do it first time at bat. You go with a lower denomination. You don't go after the 10 if you're trying out dating and you suck at it. No, of course not. You go with the 4, yeah? And it probably won't even work at first. You'll probably bomb. And so what you do, you go for a lower status girl. See? What you do is that when you start dating, I mean, this is especially for guys who are not dating at all and who want to start dating and improve it. What you do is very simple. You go for a girl who's below you on the ranking, and you start to try to date her. If it fails with her, go a little bit lower. It fails with her, go a little bit lower. Go as low as you have to until you are successful with a girl. Successful in the sense of that she's giving you all kinds of attention, she's fucking you, and she's just crazy about you and calling and texting, right? And then you phase her out and you go to slightly better. Or let me phrase it. First, you go to slightly better, and then you phase her out, okay? You're Tarzan in the jungle, right? You never let go of the vine you're holding. before you grab onto the next one. No, 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 no. You always hold on to the last vine. You grab the next one, and once you have the next one firmly in hand, only then do you let go. Same with dating, okay? You casually date some girl successfully, then you climb up the ladder. Think of it in those terms. You started in minor league at the very lowest league of whatever it is, and then you go a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit next step, until finally you're going to be in the major leagues. But with all that experience, because that's the point. You want to be building up experience in dating, in networking professionally, in everything. See? Everything is about experience. The more you do something, the better you will be. And what you have to do is always start small. Don't start big. You know, there are so many guys whose eyes are bigger than their stomachs, and they go for the gusto, go for gold, and they wind up going splat on the cement. Why? Because they didn't have the experience, they didn't have the training, the discipline that only comes from experience. And so in dating, right? You want to be planning to improve your dating. Now, what does it mean? Like I showed you that spreadsheet. Let me just go back to it real quick. And there, oops, not that. There we go. There. Okay. In social life, right? You can quantify how you do in your social life. For instance, you want to be cold approaching girls, right? Cold approaching them online or in person, whatever, but you want to fix a set number per week or per day, okay? My thinking is that the best way is to do 3 per day. Try to approach 3 girls per day and be strict about it. You know, it doesn't matter if you succeed or not. What's important is that you practice. And every time that you approach some girl, whether it be in person or online, what you want to be doing is gauging what worked and what didn't. How did what you say make her feel? How did she respond to what you said? See, you always want to be writing that down in that notebook, which is the reason I told you to get the notebook, okay? You get a notebook because you write down what works and what does not work. And you go humbly from the bottom up, okay? And look, you're dating some girl who's a 4, okay? She's a little bit overweight and she's not that pretty. And you get to a comfortable situation with her, and then you graduate to a better quality girl, right? And you have to think of it as practice, as just getting better. It's just part of life and part of growing, okay? And you want to be doing this because this is the only way to improve. See, if you take a child of say 4 years, right? And you take this child and toss him into the deep end of the pool, what is the likely outcome? The likely outcome is that that poor 4-year-old child will probably drown. By some miracle, maybe that child will, somehow figure out a way to swim and splash around and keep head above water. Okay, it would be a miracle. But miracles happen, okay? But more likely than not, that poor 4-year-old child tossed into the deep end of the pool will sink to the bottom and drown, and that will be horrifying. So what do you do with a 4-year-old child? You take them to the kiddie pool. The kiddie pool that's 6 inches deep, and you sit them there and you get them used to the water. And then after that, you take them very carefully to the slightly deeper part of the kiddie pool, and you slowly get them used to the water. You slowly get them used to the depth, and little by little they'll pick it up. And before you know it, in just a few days, they'll be swimming happy as a clam in the deep end. But you have to get them accustomed to it in the kiddie pool. You see what I'm saying? That's what you have to do insofar as networking is concerned, insofar as dating is concerned. You can only improve these things by going into a situation that has low pressure for you, where the stakes are low. Because when the stakes are high, see, you're going to be so psyched out that you're going to fail. But when the stakes are low, like going to a convention for Cards Against Humanity, like dating the girl who's just a 4, you're not going to be concerned. You're not going to be worried. You're not going to be stressed out and tense. And so you'll be able to casually try out different approaches, which is what you want. You want to be trying different approaches and, of course, studying those approaches, writing them down and saying, okay, this worked and this did not. And writing down the situation where it did not work. Because by writing it down in your notebook, you'll keep it in mind for later. Because what happens is that human memory is flawed. We tend to forget stuff very easily. So when you write down, oh, I went to this party and I said this, and everybody looked at me like I just popped a fart in the middle of the cocktail party, well, you'll remember it if you write it down. If you just try to remember in your head, you'll forget it, okay? Because that's how people are. And you only learn by writing something down and analyzing it. Because when you are when you oblige yourself to write something down, it forces you to think about it, which is what you want. You want to be thinking about what you are doing. So that way you learn. Okay, finally, the issue of the soul, okay? Like I said at the beginning, I'm not talking about the soul in the sense of like, the religious sense. I'm talking about your spirit, your inner person, whatever you want to call it, okay? We don't have to get bogged down into the definitions of it. We just have to be focused on what is the sense of it. It's not the mind and it's not the body. It's that sense of you, of who you are, okay? Now, one of the things that I highly recommend is to meditate. Now, here's a key issue. When I talk about meditating, I'm not talking about you, sitting there in the lotus position, your hands on your knees, pointing up at the sky, your eyes closed and saying for 10 hours. No, I'm not talking about that. There are a lot of activities that you do, that guys do, that can bring in a meditative state. For instance, when I was a kid, pre-teenager, when I was like between the ages of, I'd say 9 and 14, when I discovered girls, I used to do these models, these plastic models, different things. I didn't have like one set kind of genre. I did like motorcycles, I did like Formula One racers, I did World War II tanks, contemporary tanks, airplanes. Oh yeah, I had a bunch of airplanes. I did this aircraft carrier, the USS Enterprise. I did like this 132 version of the F-14 Tomcat, the one that was in Top Gun, but I did it before Top Gun, the movie, had come out. I remember it was a big Revell model, but I was crazy about Tamiya models, right? And the thing is, see, I would do these models for hours on end, right? I'd do these models and, working on them very carefully, yeah? Now, that was a form of meditation. It doesn't sound like it is, but it is, because you see, what is meditation? Meditation is focusing your attention, your total concentration on something mundane, but focusing your like conscious mind on something mundane so that the rest of your mind can relax, because it's not focusing on anything. And doing something like a model, for instance, it's really mindless. I mean, you don't need to have many IQ points. You don't have to be particularly thoughtful to work on a model, right? A little plastic model. When you're painting it, what are you focusing on? You're painting this tiny little piece of plastic, right? And so you're focusing on getting your strokes to be as even as possible, having the paint spread across the piece as evenly as possible, and so that you don't see the brush strokes, right? You're focusing on that, which is totally mundane. And what happens to the rest of your head? It relaxes, it floats around. A lot of times, I had my best ideas when I was doing models. In point of fact, today, as a grown man, I do a lot of woodworking shit. A lot of it is very repetitive. I don't do it very well, but I enjoy it. And a lot of times when I do it, the mundane act of working on some woodworking shit allows my mind to rest, and often as not gives me the best ideas. So focus on something, find something that is your path to meditation, okay? I mean, sure, go ahead and read books on it. There are a bunch of books on meditation. You can find them on your own. But what's important is to find that mundane task that allows you to meditate. A lot of women, they find housework a form of meditation. They don't even realize it. But I've talked to many different women, different ages, in different countries even. And they say that they love to do housework because when they're doing housework, it's so easy and trivial and mindless. And they tell me that it's a form of relaxation to them, to some of them, not all of them, of course. But that proves what it is. They're focusing on something mundane and trivial, and their mind is relaxing, wandering. Okay? Now, there are three endpoints here that I want to discuss that are actually very important. Okay, and there are, from my way of thinking, they are the most important ones of this presentation. There are the last three items there on the issue of the soul, and I'll read them to you. They're, number one, reconcile yourself to your past, face who you are today, imagine who you want to be. Now, it's very important that you face these three questions during this time of quarantine, because during this time of quarantine, you're stuck at home. Maybe you have work or study that from home, but okay, for the most part, you're home. You have a lot of time on your hands. Take that notebook that I told you about, that moleskin notebook or the lectern notebook that I mentioned, one of those nice notebooks, and ask yourself these three questions. Who was I in the past? Who am I today? Whom do I want to be in the future? A lot of times we find ourselves just living life and we don't stop to think who we have been, who we are, and who we wish to be. And our failure to ask those questions, of figuring those three states out, of who we used to be, who we are now, and who we want to be, our failure to ask ourselves that often makes us just keep on going blindly, not thinking, going at life almost at random. I did a video a while back called Your Life is a Car, right? And I said that a person's life is sort of like a car ride. You don't hop in your car and drive with no direction. Of course not. You hop in a car and you know where you're going. You're going to the supermarket, you're going to the beach, you're going wherever. A lot of times we find ourselves driving pointlessly, going here, going there, but with no direction, answering just short-term stimulus, instantaneous stimulus, reacting to random instantaneous stimulus, rather than directing the course of our lives. So what you have to be doing is you have to be thinking about what is the past of your life? What is the shape of your life? And who are you today? Now, I would venture to say that looking at yourself in the mirror and saying who you are today is the toughest of all of these. Because who you are today, looking at yourself in the mirror and really just acknowledging who you are is very painful, because a lot of times we're walking around with delusions as to who we are. I know I certainly do. And I would venture to guess that a lot of you are the same, that you think that you're cooler or better than you actually are. But if you stop and look at the mirror and actually start asking yourself, I mean, like hand to heart, no bullshit, just you and the mirror and nobody else. And you realize that you're not doing very well. You're not as cool as you thought. Or as cool as you pretend. Cool or successful or whatever. You see? It's very, very difficult sometimes to face who you are, but that's the most important thing. It's the most important thing. You want to know who you are today. And you want to be figuring out what led you to be who you are today. What were the things, the events of your past? Was it other people? Did other people influence you in a determinate way? Was it you yourself? What was it? What led you to be who you are today? And once you've settled on that of who you are today, you want to be thinking, who do I want to be in the future? What you want to be dreaming about, the daydream you want to have, is who you are going to be when you are 80. That's what you should be daydreaming about. Okay? It sounds kind of weird, yeah? I'm telling you, don't daydream about being a superhero. Don't daydream about being president. Daydream about being an 80-year-old man. Yeah, but when you hit 80, you're at the end of your life. Okay, maybe you last a single year, or maybe you last a dozen years, but it's the end. You're 80, you're old, you're done, right? So you want to be thinking, what do I want my 80-year-old person, my 80-year-old self to look like? You see? And this is a powerful thing, because you can start imagining what kind of life you want to have when you're 80. Start to imagine what kind of relationships you want to have. What kind of businesses do you want to have, or have retired from, if you will? You want to be thinking and imagining yourself at 80. And what do you want that man to look like? What do you want that man to have experienced? You see? And once you've settled on the kind of man that you want to be when you hit 80, you aim for him. You see? See, when I say 80, I'm not saying what kind of man you want to be when you're 50 or 60. No. For the same reason that, see, when you try to split a log with an axe, you don't aim for the log. You aim for the base, and you ignore the log. Because anybody who's split wood can tell you, see, if you take an axe and you try to split that log and you aim for the log, what happens is that you wind up just chipping it. Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. If you aim for the top of that log, you'll hit it, sure, but you'll just chip it and it'll fly away, okay? But if you ignore the log and look beyond the log and aim for the base, it's like a kind of magic. I'm not kidding. And guys who've chopped wood will probably confirm this. See, if you aim for the base and ignore the log that's standing there, the interference between your axe head and the base, and you raise that axe head and just bring it right down and ignore the log and go right for the base, you split that log easy as you please. It's like butter. You don't even feel it. It's the weirdest thing. It's the same thing with where you want to be in the future. If you aim for the man you want to be at 40 or 50, okay, at the prime of your life, you'll probably miss. You'll probably just chip it. But if you aim for the man beyond that, for the man who's at the end, for that 80-year-old man, then it's a different story. Then you will be going towards that North Star and ignoring the path, and thereby splitting it successfully. You see my meaning? I mean, I know it's a hinky metaphor, but I hope that you get what I'm saying. It's very, very important that you do that. It's very important that you do that. Why? Because you see, this time in the quarantine, you can think about stuff, because all of our lives are in a sense paused. We're all like, waiting. We don't know how long we'll have to wait. And so we might as well be using this time productively, getting in shape, eating right, reading the right books and reading a lot of books, planning how we want to go about building a social network insofar as our business is concerned, and insofar as our social life is concerned, and our dating life is concerned, right? We want to be doing that, planning it, because right now we can't really do it, right? But the key issue is that we want to be thinking of how we want to live our life. What kind of man do we want to end up being? Whatever man you are now, it could be that you look in the mirror and you don't like that man. And you look at that man and you think that he's just not much, which is the worst, okay? Because see, if you look at the mirror and you say, man, I'm a piece of shit is actually not that terrible, because he's actually getting what he wants, right? But if you look at the mirror and you're like, man, I'm not much, that's worse, because that's just the guy who's just not getting anything. He's just existing. He's not living. You got to look at yourself, acknowledge what kind of life you are living or have lived up to this point, acknowledge who you are. And no matter how lowly or mediocre, if you turn around and look at a mountaintop and truly pursue that mountaintop, truly try to become that 80-year-old man that you imagine, with all the things that have happened in his life, you're thinking to yourself, I want to be an 80-year-old guy who successfully did some sort of business, who built a family, who has the respect and appreciation of his milieu. Think of it in those terms, and then try to achieve that goal. And then you'll split the log, you see? And no matter where you are now, and no matter how old you are, because a lot of guys say, oh, you know, I'm 40, it's over for me. No, it's never over. It's never too old, okay? You're never too old. Never, okay? You're only ever too old when you figure that you are too old. If you just ignore the issue and just keep on going, no, nobody's gonna mind. Nobody's gonna say no. You see what I'm saying? That's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. And I'm telling you because I know. Okay? Okay, that concludes my presentation. And I hope that it's helped you out and given you some food for thought. We're gonna take a quick break. Just a couple of minutes. I have to go pee and I have to get some water. So 2 minutes and I'll be right back. Okay? Okay, guys, I'm back. Let me just get us ready so we can go into the portion that I love the most of these webinars, which is just talking to you guys. Okay. So let me just pop up the questions. Let's see the questions that you guys have been asking. By the way, can you all hear me? Hit the up hand. I know I'm annoying on this particular issue, but it always just makes me paranoid. Everybody can hear me? Raise your hand if you can hear me. Everybody? Okay, great. Okay, let me just get to the questions real quick. Oh, Patrick Delvernois. Patrick, let me unmute you, and here we go. You can ask the question yourself. Patrick, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Patrick, how's it going?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Enjoyed your presentation.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Ask the question. It was a really good one.
Which one?
The last one.
Okay. My question is, should all guys try motorcycles?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Goddamn right. Everybody should. Every guy should. Because it gives you a sense of fear and freedom at the same time. Okay? I mean, if you're sane, if you're not an idiot, you will recognize how dangerous motorcycles are. They are extremely dangerous. You can get hit by some random car. It's not your fault. You did everything right, but you don't have eyes in the back of your head, of course. And of course, some asshole in a car can run you over and kill you. Okay, so there's an element of luck. Automatically, that makes you scared. That should make you scared. That your life can be snuffed out by bad luck. But at the same time, when you're riding a motorcycle, there's a sense of freedom. There's a sense of flying that is just untouchable. Okay, Patrick, do you ride motorcycles, by the way?
I do not, but I was thinking about getting into it. I think you mentioned previously about you want a BMW bike of some sort.
Yeah, an adventure bike. Yeah, I want to go on a big adventure around Europe in one of these bikes, a 1250. Yeah, but you should definitely do so. Definitely, and always. I said last time, and I'm going to end this topic real quick because I'm remembering that I talked at length about it in the last webinar. But what I said was, buy a bike that is underpowered if you're a beginner. Okay, buy a little bike with less than 20 horsepower. Okay, it'll be like a 200cc, something like that, because that way a bike that is underpowered will be more forgiving in the sense of like you can make mistakes and you won't crash. See, and that's why you should do it, but definitely suggest you do it. Yeah, tell me how it goes, Patrick. Anything
Yeah.
else you want to talk about?
Yeah, let me just hit on a little bit of your presentation. Like, I don't know, I really enjoyed it, and some of the things that you put on here, like I've been doing, like over the past few years, I've been losing weight, eating right. I've been trying to read 50 pages a day, but there's some interesting points that I didn't really consider.
Such as?
Oh, just I guess like one point on here is like I guess improving your dating life. I mean, I shouldn't say I have like approach anxiety, but like I don't know, it's sort of like it's an area I'm not good at is what I'm trying to say. So I'll
Yeah, but
definitely make an effort to improve upon that.
yeah, but think improve about it, absolutely, but improve about it in a smart way,
Right.
like just incrementally. Go from the bottom. There's no shame in it. I think that a lot of guys, you correct me if I'm wrong. I think that there are a lot of guys who feel that they have to go for the hot girl that they want like long term right away, as opposed to trying to work their way up to that girl. Does that make any sense to you?
Oh no, I definitely see how most guys can do that. And also I think people overcomplicate things, and I think I'm the same way. I'm just like, oh, have to analyze every detail of it, and that's obviously a problem. Rather
Yeah.
than just up and shooting shit. So
I think that overanalysis comes from anxiety. Because when you notice, have you noticed that when you don't really give a shit about something, you don't overthink it and you do it very well and very naturally and it works out fine. Yeah. And so that's why my thinking is go for low status women. If you don't have practice with dating, go for low status women and work your way up. Yeah, that seems logical to me. How does it sound to you?
I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, like the
Yeah.
same example with a motorcycle. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna get a 1200cc bike. I'm gonna start at the bottom,
No.
so way up.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm getting a 1200cc bike, but I've been in this go around of motorcycling, right? I have two other bikes. I have an 800cc and a 250cc, the dual sport, right? And the 250cc was my first bike in this latest go around because I owned motorcycles way back, and I decided to get into it, midlife crisis, all that shit. But I started deliberately with this little bike that was incredibly cheap and it was underpowered, and so therefore I wasn't going to get into any trouble that I couldn't handle. That's how you do it. You slowly progress, and once I mastered that, then I got the 800, and the 800 I've mastered that, and I'm very confident in it. And so now the idea of getting a 1250, a big adventure bike, that's no problem, but it would have been insane if I'd gone to the 1250 at first. See, so yeah. Anyway, Patrick, great talking to you. um Let me see. Um, um, Sorry about this. I'm looking at these. I wish I had like a producer. It would be so much um, so much easier. Jackson has a question that is totally unrelated to anything we talked about. I think it would be a good idea to talk to him and go in a different direction for a bit. Jackson, are you there? Jackson, you
Hello?
there? Hey, how's it
Hello?
going?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, good, coach. What about you?
I'm doing good. Yeah, go ahead. What was your question? You want to talk about communism?
Yeah, so my question is why communism actually fails? Even though the whole idea of communism is very fascinating, everybody should be equal, kind of those stuff, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
Because
right there's
um,
the problem. Right there's the problem. Right there's the problem because people aren't
now,
equal.
yeah, so what actually fascinated me is because for the past couple of days, I was been reading more articles and stuff about this communism thing.
Hmm.
So, so what actually made is that it's like something saying that creating heaven on earth kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
But what actually goes wrong? I mean, seriously, what goes wrong over there?
I don't understand
So can't it be done?
Well, look,
Hello?
the problem
Hello?
with hang on a second, Jackson. I'm getting like
So
some
you got my
no, sorry, I had to mute you for a second, Jackson, because there was like some bad echo. So the issue becomes, why doesn't communism work? Well, communism doesn't work because people are different. That's the key issue. And this is why this discussion here has been sort of vague and not really like trying to nail down every little thing. And there is no solution to everything because each of you is different, okay? And so what works for one person will not work for another, and what's good for one person will not be good for the other. And so each person, in order to improve yourself, improve your life, is you have to figure out yourself, who you are, and you have to do that looking in the mirror, warts and all kind of analysis, okay? That, of course, communism doesn't do. Let me put down everybody's hand, and anybody who has a question, raise your hand. And I want to go to people who I've not talked to before because I realized I talked to Jackson last time. Stephen Pace, are you there? Hello, Stephen.
Hey, Gonzalo.
How's it going?
Going good. Appreciate you
What?
calling on me.
Yeah, absolutely. What's up?
Yeah, so my question is, like, I get your point about like wasting your time with mindless bullshit like stupid TV, stupid YouTube videos and stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, the problem I deal with is I don't listen to the mindless bullshit. I consume content that makes you think and more like self-development stuff, like a lot of the stuff that you make and other content that really makes you think about like different aspects of your life and economics. But I was wondering if you could touch upon like the dangers of like mental masturbation, because I found it's real easy to consume a lot of this content
Yeah.
and listen to it for like hours on end, but then at the end of the day you really haven't applied anything, and it's a real easy trap to fall into. And I know the solution is probably like you said, like start to get objective about it, like put together a spreadsheet and some goals and start mapping out progress. But if you could just touch on that, and then I have a quick follow-up question as well.
Well, sure. Well, the issue becomes, of course, that you consume media, but what are they doing? They are telling you what you think, or you already think, or maybe they add some little insights here and there to what you already think, right? Which is great, but it's not really showing you a new territory now, is it? Because that's why you're consuming it, because it is comforting. Whereas
Mhm.
when you're reading, it's you're trying to, and especially something that you might actively disagree with. That's something else I should have touched upon. And so insofar as your reading is concerned, it's always healthy to be reading at least one book that you completely disagree with, because that will make you think a lot more. See, if you're consuming media, you're often is not listening to stuff that you already agree with, or that you generally agree with, that the person giving you the content will either be telling you some things that you hadn't thought about, or perhaps there will be one or two opinions that they have that you don't completely agree with, but it's not that much, so it's fine. Yeah. But you're
Yeah.
not really expanding your head now, are you? It's just running through the same streams as before. You always want to be examining things that you don't know, not what you already know. You know about World War II, for instance, then don't read another fucking World War II book. You read a book about whatever, Napoleon, the Roman Empire, the Mongol Empire, whatever the fuck. But you don't read the same fucking book again, or the same kind of book. You see? That's the
Yeah.
thing. That's the thing that you want to avoid at all costs, which is what I referred to originally. I was telling you about how I was reading about the Byzantine Empire. It's all new to me, and the fact of the matter is, it's harder because there are all these unfamiliar names that I have to learn and have to pay attention to it, and so it's not particularly easy. And that's the problem. Sometimes it's so easy to re-listen to the same information you already have, and that's a trap. See?
Yeah, and what you said about actually reading instead of audiobooks, that really stuck out to me, because like I found with audiobooks, it's just so fucking easy, man. And that's the appeal of it to me. Like I'm the
Sure.
type of person where when I read a book, it's like physically uncomfortable to like sit in a comfortable position, hold the book, and then the words start to go towards the crease in the middle of the book. So then you kind of got to move the page a little bit and move it. It's just such a pain in the ass, but it like forces you to have the discipline to
Yeah.
actually do it. Whereas with the audiobook, man, you just put it on play and then you close your eyes and just listen, but you're not, it's like like to actually read, it takes more physical energy and
Yes.
mind power into it. So I appreciate you reminding me of that.
How old are you?
Yeah, the second quick question is like I also struggle with committing my time to any one thing because I know that our time is the most valuable commodity we have because we're never going to get more of it. We can only lose it. So what I
Right.
end up doing is I'm like, yeah, well, maybe I should read about this, or maybe I should do this or do that. But then I'm always thinking, is that really the best thing that I can do with my time right now? So I essentially have like fear of missing out. But then in the end, I just end up not doing anything, which is a complete fucking waste.
Which is
It's
the
really like
worst. It's the
it's
worst
like
outcome.
but it's so easy to do, especially when you're very objective and analytical. Like with myself, it's like, well, I don't want to do that because that will take up too much of my precious time, and then you just end up not doing anything. So if you could touch upon that
Well,
also.
you have the answer yourself. I mean, what do you need me for? You're basically overanalyzing stuff and dithering. That's what you're doing. You're dithering, yeah, instead of committing. Any military officer will tell you that a bad decision is far better than indecision. Okay,
Yeah,
so you commit yourself to reading some book for 3 hours, and you start reading the fucking thing. Don't start dithering. Well, maybe it's not such a good book. Maybe I shouldn't read it. Maybe I should go and do this or that or the other. No, no, just focus on the fucking book. You committed. It's a trivial amount of time. Finish it. Do the 3 hours. There's something else too. A lot of times you use that overanalysis to disguise the fact that you don't have the discipline to do it. And you say to
that's
yourself,
true.
oh, I didn't do it because, I was overanalyzing. No, it's you were too unfocused, undisciplined to finish the task. That's what's going on. You should ask
Yeah,
yourself that, okay? Because
yeah,
a lot of times, I mean, I can say I can tell you this because it happened to me that I'd be like, oh, I don't really want to do this or that, the other, and it was really I don't have what it takes to do it, or I don't have the discipline to do it, and I'm making up excuses. See what
yeah.
I'm saying?
It's just so easy, and I knew that it's something that has it probably happened to you before, and yeah, it's
You got to
man,
understand something that you got to understand something key. See, everything in life, the valuable things in life are all difficult by definition. Okay, the valuable things in life, the things that give you meaning and happiness and joy in your life, the things
yeah.
that give you satisfaction, they're all difficult. What's the hardest thing that you've ever done? You've ever done like some sport or something competitively, or done anything like trying to be the best at it? How hard was it?
It was fucking real hard.
Fucking
Yeah,
A. Yeah.
yeah. So
Well,
I like it's like, if I want to get better with women, like maybe I go sign up for a ballroom dancing course, but then I'm thinking, well, maybe I should try to figure out how to make more money. It's like, well, no, maybe I should just concentrate on getting my body. It's like there's so many areas in life that you want to optimize. It's hard to optimize them all because you're
well,
always thinking, well,
you can, of course. You cannot. You cannot. But that's opportunity cost. It's basic economics. Whatever decision you take, the price of that decision is all the other decisions that you didn't take. Right. So what you
exactly.
have to do is organize yourself. That's why I told you a spreadsheet and a notebook. It's the spreadsheet is fucking free, and a notebook, you can pick up a cheap one for $1. Okay, and just write down longhand what you want to achieve, prioritize it. Okay, if
Yeah,
you're not sure, just make out a list of all the things that you want to achieve, and then just randomly make up the list, and then start trying to enumerate the one that is most important.
yeah, yeah.
And
See,
go from number 1 to 20. Yeah.
it is difficult for me because I'm an all or nothing type guy. Like the most success I ever had in my life was where I had one goal, and then I had a notebook, like you said, where I laid out that goal, and all of the sub goals that would take to achieve it. And I broke it down, and I just basically went like fucking scorched earth. I said, all these other areas of my life can suffer, but this goal is going to happen. And honestly, that was the most challenging thing, but I was also the most happy looking back at it, because I knew the sacrifices I was making was getting me towards that goal, you know? So now
what's the problem now? Do the same.
now it's just like, I don't know what goal, but I mean, that's my own personal thing that I got to figure out. And I don't want to take up too much more time. I want you to be able to get to all the other guys' questions, but just three quick things to Patrick, trying to figure out the getting better with ladies. Just like you said, Gonzalo, when you work the room and you're trying to network, like talk to everyone. Don't just talk to the main target that you're trying to get to. So with ladies, you know, talk to the lesser attractive women, talk to the older women, and talk to the dudes. Talk to the dudes also, because what will happen the attractive women will see you being gregarious and being sociable with the lesser attractive women and with the older ladies and the dudes, and they'll be like, wow, this is a great guy. So do that. And then to Jackson's thing, communism, it's because people are inherently fucking lazy, so they're not going to work if they're going to get the reward.
Yeah.
And conversely, if they're not going to get the reward, they're not going to work. So that's why it fails. And then last thing, a couple seminars ago, you said GLRP, get fit, learn, read, and I think the P was plan, right?
Yep.
No, it stands for Gonzalo Lira Red Pill. That's what GLRP stands for.
I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It's great talking to you, man. Yeah.
Nice talking to you, man. Take care.
You too. And I'm glad you're appreciating it. Thanks.
Likewise.
Let me get to, it was great talking to you, man. Let me get to Lucas Zo.
Yes.
I don't know how to pronounce your name. Lucas,
no problem. Lucas is good. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine. What's up, my man?
Okay, thanks for having me. I was kind of very happy to be here for the presentation. I've seen a lot of your presentations online, but I have never really participated in an online one. So thank you. I was just kind of hoping to share something with you, and it kind of relates very well to what you're speaking about from the perspective of improving yourself and all the trouble that we're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And so just sharing my own personal experience, that's what it is. And so with hopes that other guys can sort of benefit from that. And again, I'm from Toronto in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a few things that I do. And so just want to share with you, because a lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, it's so difficult, it's so hard. And, you know, there's a lot of sort of people losing things left and right, jobs, money, and everything else. But there are certain, sorry, I've just been running around the house a little bit, so I'm a little bit short-breath here. So what happens is, I truly believe, like, again, this is my personal experience, that people who have good friends, A, will not suffer very greatly, and 2, will make a lot of money. And what I mean by that is, what is business? Business is ability to solve someone's problems, really.
Mm-hmm.
And the more people have problems, the more chance you have to solve that for them and gain sort of money for that. And a lot of people right now have a lot of problems, serious problems.
Goddamn right they do.
And so my thinking is, people are saying, you know, 50% of businesses will go belly up. My personal experience, so again, just to give you my background, I'm from IT management, consulting. I also do real estate and a few other things on the side. So my point of view comes from that sort of understanding how businesses work very well, and knowing a lot of businesses in Toronto, at least. Again, somewhere else could be a different experience. But there's a lot of people having serious problems right now, and May 1st that just passed. And I'm talking not from the news perspective, like hands-on, on the street conversations with the owners and everything else.
What kind of problems happened on the 1st of May?
So a lot of people are running out of cash.
Yeah.
And so the rent, commercial rent paying and things of that nature, people are saying, you know, are we paying nothing, or are we paying quarter of it, saying, you know, we'll pay you later kind of thing. So, but there's been a lot of businesses who've been able to come ahead, and I've been able to make a lot of money as a result of it. And I'll give you some examples. Obviously the names will be skipped, but the context, I can give you some. So
Sure.
for
Go
instance,
ahead.
International Students School of English. Toronto is
Mhm.
fairly good for that. There's a lot of people all over the place that have been traveling here.
Mhm.
So as you can imagine, this business right now is absolutely dead. And I don't mean dead, is dead. And people who running those schools know that even when things go back to normal, they will not be able to recover for at least 6 to even 12 months.
At least, yeah.
That's right. And so a lot of them, and again, I'm giving you a different sort of response to a business that is absolutely dead in the water. A lot of them just give up and say, okay, that's it. I'm just folding. The other ones are trying to liquidate their assets. Other ones are trying to see what they can do. But in a business situation, what happened is business needs to satisfy business needs, right, of your customers.
Mhm.
And we had some people who've been able to transfer the entire business model into the online space within 3 to 5 days. They literally said, you have 5 days to solve this problem for me. We were able to get that done in 3. And so the business they had actually is booming much more. And so you can say, okay, sure, I can start school or whatever online and it would be hard to do it. Absolutely. But if you have a solid customers, you have solid service that you provided to them, and they are loyal to you, they will adjust and follow you. And that's what I've seen happening.
Mhm.
And so this is one example of needing to adjust drastically in some situations,
Mhm.
because again, you have certain assets that become dead weight, like real estate, and then you may not have some assets that you need in order to continue your business. So
Okay.
in order to adjust, you have to do it
Mhm.
quickly.
Yeah.
And for us as guys, we all have certain abilities, right? Some of us are in
Yeah.
computers, some of us in construction.
Lucas, I need to give other people opportunities, so you're gonna have to get
Yes,
to the point.
yes. So what I'm saying is this: find people that you know who's got what kind of problem, and
Mhm.
find solution for them. And the
Okay.
better, faster you can do it, the more money you can make. And there's a lot of money on the street waiting for this kind of
Yeah, I think
abilities.
so too. Okay.
Anyway,
Thanks,
hope
Lucas.
to share with you guys. No problem. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Take it easy. Yeah, absolutely. You know, like Lucas said, you know, having well, that's why you want to be networking, because you want to be expanding your the number of friends that you have, the people that you can turn to. Let me talk to Dimitri F. He's got his hand raised, and I don't think I've ever talked to him. Dimitri, are you there? There's actually two Dimitris. Dimitri F twice. Are you there, Dimitri? Hello.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, how's it going?
I think I did it.
Hello? Hello, Dimitri, are you there? Hello, Dimitri? Dimitri, are you there? Oh man, that's a shame. Well, I'll try to get to Dimitri again later. Let me go to Chapman Lam. Chapman Lam. Chapman, are you there?
Oh, yes. Can you hear
How's it
me?
going?
Yeah, it's quite normal life. I'm from Hong Kong, by the way.
Nice to
Hello?
meet you. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
right
nice
here.
to meet you too. Yeah. Yeah. So, is the audio okay?
Yeah, speak up a little bit, but go ahead. What's on your mind?
Okay. Yes, please. Yes, following your advice on improving the dating, one thing that get to me very often is that how do not break up with the low value girl if they find out they want to have a future with you but you don't. So how to do it in a like peaceful way or something? Bitch can be crazy sometimes.
How do you break up peacefully? Oh man, there's no real way. Okay. At the end of the
Oh,
day, no, I mean, like, I can tell you garbage, but it would be garbage. Look, at the end of the day, if you want to break up with somebody who wants to be with you,
mhm.
it's always going to be messy. There's no way to avoid it. Okay.
Oh,
There's always going to be hurt feelings, especially if a girl feels, especially if a girl is used to being the one doing the dumping. Okay.
mm.
Um, if well, no, even the ones who no, look, it's always going to be a mess, always. Okay.
Oh,
The only time it's not going to be a mess is when she wants to dump you and you just dumped her right before she was going to dump you. And then she'll be
Wow.
like, oh, this is horrible. This is such a tragedy. And then you'll never hear from her again. Okay. That's the only
Yeah.
situation. Okay. But if a
Yes.
girl is into you, she's always going to have like a meltdown, and it's always going to be messy. And you just have to manage it, manage the situation. Huh? I mean,
Okay.
that's the best I can give you. I mean, like every guy here who's ever dated some girl who just did not want to break up, we have all had that scene, that nightmare scene of her just having a meltdown, and you're the focus of it. You just have to deal with it, you know? I mean, you want to have an omelet, you got to break eggs. You know what I'm saying? Simple as that, my man. What
Yes.
else is on
Okay.
your mind? I hope this
Yeah.
presentation
And
helped you out, by the way.
yeah, I will try to see what I can do. And another question is from your previous video, the chaos is better than status.
Which
Do you
one?
hear
I'm
me?
sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you speak up?
Yes, the chaos is better than status.
Yeah, chaos is
Yeah.
better than stasis. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
status.
What about
And you
it?
mentioned, since I'm thinking of doing something similar, but I want to think about this, like what exactly, like from your experience, what exactly did you learn from your US traveling US and just dump everything behind? Yeah, I
Sure.
want to see. Yeah.
You see, what happens is a lot of times we're so afraid of change that we are willing to continue in a bad status quo. Okay. And we're just afraid of it. But we just have to
Oh,
embrace change, chaos even. Because a lot of
yes.
times if we're in a bad place and in a happy place, going day after day in that same situation, what exactly is the point of that? And so if you're in a very unhappy place, the thing you want to do is just break out of it. If you are in a happy place, then of course you want to maintain it. Of course, yeah, but in the end, if it's between, if you're static, because how can I put this? There's a difference between being in a good place and being in stasis. In stasis, I think of it in the sense of like just being in a negative place and not really changing or moving, just enduring a bad day after a bad day, right? But if you're in a good place, of course you don't want to change it. But is that stasis? No, that's just you're cruising. You're going in a good direction, and you want to maintain that direction. I think ultimately the difference between what is stasis is whether it's a good situation or a bad situation. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my thinking. How are things going in Hong Kong, by the way?
Well, like officially speaking, it's okay, but if you like pay attention to the political situation, you can feel that a storm is coming, right?
A storm is coming in Hong Kong or in China?
Yeah, I think in China first, and then it will spread to Hong Kong.
You think the people are going to rise up in China?
Not really, but I think since Hong Kong is pushing, the government after the why last year they're pushing even harder to our people, and the police brutality is getting more serious. And so I think that, and also they're pushing a very big law that will scare many people. So I think if this law really pass, that this is a bill really pass, it would be very big impact, like maybe you run again. So I think that's what I mean. There's maybe a storm will be coming. So
A storm is coming, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. Thanks, Chapman.
Yeah.
Great talking to you, man.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, great talking to you.
Okay, see you next time. Let's see about Dimitri F. Dimitri, I'm unmuting you now. Are you there? Dimitri, are you there? Hello? Oh man, no Dimitri. Okay. Who else wants to ask a question? John Doe. Hell yeah, got to talk to John Doe. John, you there?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, are you there? What's up?
Yeah, okay. So I have to ask about this improving dating. So you mean if you are, I don't know, not good at it, put it mildly, so you have to, I don't know, try first with ugly women first? Because I tried that once and that didn't work.
What happened?
Well, it was this speed dating thing, and
Hello?
even this ugly girl didn't. Right?
Yeah. Even this ugly girl didn't want to what? Didn't want to go out with you?
Didn't want. Yes.
Okay, well then I think that what you have to do, John, is it could be that you need to work on your personal presentation so that you come across as more decisive. Perhaps that was the reason. See, because I'm sure you're a good-looking guy, or good-looking
No, I
enough.
don't think
Remember,
so.
well,
Rather
don't worry about
average.
it. Looks are not that important. Personality trumps everything. Okay, and coming across with like a strong personality, decisive, that can help you out. Okay, and so you should practice that. I think that a great way to practice it, by the way, is to videotape yourself. I'll tell you right now that when I started doing videos, it was very uncomfortable to be looking at myself in the videotape that I'd filmed, right? And looking at myself, I just did not like it at all. But naturally, I started looking at myself and trying to improve things so that I came across better. And I think that retrospectively, it was a really great thing because I could see how I was coming across and adjust my performance. Because ultimately, when you're talking to other people, you're kind of like giving a performance. And so what you want to do is be working on that performance, improving it. And to add to the conversation, to the presentation that I just gave you, I think that working on your performance, on your delivery, is something that you can do during this time of quarantine. Set up a camera. It doesn't matter if it's an expensive one, just get a cheap one and film yourself. Film yourself talking, film yourself, pretending that you are one half of a conversation. Remember, it doesn't matter. You're the only one who's going to be looking at this videotape. And practice it so that you can improve. You can look at yourself from the outside. That's why I say when you look at yourself in the mirror, it's so important to look at yourself from the outside. You see what I'm saying, John?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that you should try that. Work on that. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Great talking to you, man. Kian. Oh, Kian is our friend in Nigeria
Hello,
or in Kenya. I forget.
Kenya.
Kian, how's it going? Where are you? I forgot.
Kenya, I'm from Kenya.
Kenya. Yeah, you're in Nairobi or thereabouts, right?
Yeah, that's right, in Nairobi.
So, have they come to get you yet?
No, they haven't come to get me. The curfew is extended to the end of May. Things are fine. I'm hearing like a lot of people are getting sick in the slums, but it's normal actually for them.
Oh God, that's kind of sad. Okay, tell
Yeah.
me more.
What else? Okay, so oh, this is a funny thing. So a lot of Africans have funny names, right?
Have what? I'm
Um,
sorry.
have funny names because they like to have their names mean something. Some of
Yeah.
the so
Yeah.
so a lot of we have a lot of people naming their kids COVID.
Okay. Oh
Yeah,
man. Okay, that's just bizarre. What can I say, man?
yeah, I know.
Oh man, they're calling their kid COVID.
Yeah,
Damn, son.
COVID. Yeah, it's hilarious, I find.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, but so you have a lockdown until the end of May,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
has there been any kind of rioting or disturbance or anything?
No rioting, no disturbance yet. Things are pretty peaceful actually. It's
Is
yeah. So
Is the government giving out money to poor people?
Oh no, fuck no.
Okay. And
That would
how are
never
they
happen.
eating then? How are they living?
How are they eating? Well, okay, so here's the thing about the poor over here. A lot of the times, you have beggars on the street, and if you do give them money, what they'll do is they'll either go buy cigarettes so they don't go hungry, or they'll put glue on their upper lip so they don't smell anything, and it stops them from. Yeah,
What do you mean? Glue on their upper lip? I don't understand.
it's just to make them high. They'll cover their face just with glue to make themselves high, and they just don't. It stops them from feeling hunger.
So they get stoned rather than eat.
Yeah, they get stoned on glue.
Jesus. Yeah, and glue kills brain cells like there's no tomorrow. I know that.
Oh yeah, it's so horrible. I mean, these people. So, like, this is an actual story. What happened? One guy, he was high on glue. You could tell. Never drive in traffic here with your window open. He tried to rob me with his own shit. He held it in his hand and threatened to throw it in the car.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Shit as a deadly weapon.
Yeah. I kid you not.
Officer, he attacked me with his own shit.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that. Yeah. So I had a question about books, by the way.
Go ahead.
So I'm actually proud of myself because I just managed to finish reading the King James version of the Old Testament. I read every single word.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good on you.
And so look, my copy, it's a very nice leather-bound copy. I got it from Barnes & Noble, and I collect a lot of those leather-bound classics. I also have a collection of comics, and I have my books very neatly arranged. If a book is not of the same edition in the series, I get pissed off. So
Okay.
my question is that kind of collector's attitude unhealthy?
Of course it is. Okay. Focus on the actual content. But look, there's nothing wrong with liking to collect books. I used to collect books, by the way.
Okay.
I used to collect first editions. Now, collecting first editions is a fun hobby. Okay. It can be very expensive.
Yeah.
But of course, those editions that are all identical, that all fit, right? First editions are never come like that. First editions are always random and totally different. Okay. And so I never had that situation. You're just a little anal retentive. It's no big deal. Just don't let it get the better of you. Okay. Look, there's nothing wrong with being anal retentive so long as you don't sacrifice human relationships over your relationships with objects. Okay. I think
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's the key issue. Because there are a lot of people I know who wind up acting as if the object is more important than the person. Okay. And that's just wrong, and and it's alienating. I mean, who wants to feel that they are less important than some fucking object, right? Yeah, so just be careful about that. Other than that, don't worry about it, And what happens also as you get older, you stop caring about objects so much. There something happens, I can't quite explain it, but you just don't care, When I was young, I used to care that, nothing happened to my car, that, nothing got scratched on the paint or anything like that. I'd care about my books and this and that. I was all anal retentive about a whole bunch of shit. But as I've gotten older, I just don't care anymore. It's something like, I think that what happens is that you start focusing your attention on things that you feel are more important. And you realize that objects, possessions, they're so transitory and ultimately they mean nothing, And so, yeah, don't worry about it. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks.
But keep on reading the classics, man. And
yeah.
good
Just
on you
by the
yeah. What?
But sorry, I just wanted to get something out there. Like, for anyone who thinks like I'm suffering in Kenya, I live a very comfortable life. I just wanted to put that out there.
I know you're an oligarch. You're a Kenyan oligarch. Yeah.
Well, by Kenyan standards, yeah. I mean, I because the number one reason to move to Africa is cheap labor. So we have a lot of staff to help us out with doing stuff. I have someone to make my bed in the morning, cook my breakfast. It's very nice.
How much does a domestic worker cost, for instance?
Well, so we're pretty generous actually, and this is generous. $300 a month, and that's generous. Yeah, and we employ 3 staff, like you know.
Sure.
So yeah, but you know, put this in context for someone living in, say, Germany, right? You have to do your own shopping, your own cooking, your own cleaning, and you know that takes up a lot of time. And the number one reason to move here is cheap labor. You know, it saves up so much time.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have these 3 domestics and you can send them out shopping for food and whatnot,
Oh
and
yeah,
taking care of the house. I mean, well, you need 1 cook and 1 cleaning person
yep, and a driver,
and
I'd say.
a driver. Okay.
Yeah.
Why a driver?
Well, okay, so a lot of the time, so let's say you want someone to go do your shopping, right?
Mm-hmm.
They a lot of time they don't know how to drive because you know education here is low. But what we did actually was we enrolled one of our guys who did the shopping. We paid for his driving lessons, and now he drives for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you know that's a smart thing to do. And you know if you pay for someone's driving lessons, you instill this trust as well because you know you have to build up trust with your staff as well.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because in Ukraine, I have a driver. Okay. And it's just more convenient. And I was thinking in multiple terms. Number one, any policeman stops, you know, the driver will handle it. Number two, any kind of accident, I won't be liable. Nobody in my family will be liable. And therefore the legal hassle is minimized. And number three, there's the issue of just knowing your way around Ukraine, around the city and whatnot, in Kharkov, right? So it's just practical to have a driver, okay? And on top of that, my wife doesn't drive. You know, she just, I got her the lessons, but she never got around to it. She never took the test. I don't want to get into it. It was just really
Right.
she never got around to learning, and so there we are. But yeah, we pay the driver about 600 a month, you know, and this is Ukraine, and he's pretty happy, you know.
Yeah, that's a lot of
So
money here. Actually, we don't do that much.
yeah, no, and in Ukraine, yeah, Ukraine, it's fairly cheap too, you know. Yeah, my thinking is that the West is just not going to come out of this situation very well, but we have to see. I specifically didn't want to talk about that issue in this webinar because I just want to, you know, mark some time and see where things turn out for next week, because next week we'll talk about it some more, because
Yeah.
things are just, they're not looking good.
Is the minimum wage too much in the West, in your opinion, or do you think it's?
Well, no, the problem right now is that the government is giving so much goddamn free money to the people that they don't really want to go back to work. That's the real problem, you know? And I think that is going to become a very, very serious, it is becoming a serious political issue. Yeah, that's my thinking. We'll talk about it next week. Hey, great talking to you, Keon.
Yeah,
great
thanks.
talking to you. Catch you later. Okay, and let's do a couple more questions before we end this webinar. Tim Munkbatar. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Tim, are you there? Hello, Tim. Tim, you there? Hello? Tim? Oh, that's a shame. Well, oh, wait. He might have redone his. Tim, are you there? Are you there? Tim? Tim, are you there? Guess not. Okay, let's go to Steve Simon. Steven, are you there? Hello?
Hello, Coach.
How's it going?
Good. Thanks for picking the call. So, so have you seen my question? I mean, I've been typing, sending questions.
Why don't you ask it?
Okay, great. So this is the kind of thing that I've been worrying for quite a while, since the last 2 years. And actually, I'm a rather young father, and we have a newborn baby, like accidentally, and now he is around 2 years old, and And quite to be honest, I didn't plan about this, but now, I mean, here we are. I'm a father. I have to take care of the children, have to take care of the family, I have to take care of the wife. And but the thing is, I mean, it is like before that, I have a personal dream, you know, like a goal set for myself. I want to establish a business. I want to develop a bit further, like for example in the film industry. And you know, this is a long journey. Like you have to keep producing work, you have to keep trying and meeting people and constantly with producer. I mean, I'm sure you have similar experience in the past, but
Sure.
but because of the children, I keep having a sense that all the time that I could possibly have, like after work, after my full-time work, it is not there anymore. Like I don't really have any more spare time to work for myself, like doing script writing, think about story, doing some settings, you know, preparing the pitch. I mean, I try really hard. I mean, you can see I stay up late, and so also I've been thinking about like between your personal dream and the children. I mean, the answer is obvious for sure, but I mean, of course, I have to take care of my children. But how do you maintain the balance between both? Like, because I constantly haven't been worried that if I spend too much time, if I dive too deep into the family, the children, the relationship, I might regret later on that I missed the opportunity of producing maybe some good work on
How
the
old
other
are you?
side. I'm around 30.
You're 30. Okay. You're kind of like on the knife edge of this issue. Okay. So this is what I would do if I were you. I would talk to your wife, right? And tell her, look, I want to pursue this and I want to give it my all, and set yourself a time limit. Okay. Like 2 years to be earning money as a writer. Where are you, by the way? What market are you writing for?
I'm in Asia, but I'm targeting London because I have been living in London for like 6 or 7 years. I have some contacts over there. But because of the family, I have to go back to work full time. I pretty much have to spend 8 to 10 hours a day in the office. So that's my current situation.
And where are you living now?
In Hong Kong.
Okay, in Hong Kong. So you're living in Hong Kong. You want to write for the movies in London. Is that correct?
Yeah, like for London. To be precise, I'm more focusing on children, you know, animation work. So I have to draw quite a lot, you know, do storyboard, like prepare a pitch. And I know a few producers over there.
Here's my issue then. If you're working on children's animation, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you produce it yourself?
Like,
see, like because
I mean, if I have the time, I mean, the problem is I don't have the time to do it. Like, every day I only have like 2 hours spare time after you know making the kids to sleep every night, and then I have to finally sit down at my desk and start working on my own drawing and animation work. But I mean, compared to the old life, I mean, I could easily have maybe 6 hours or 4 hours every day to make works.
Well, I don't. How can I put this? See, so your problem is that you don't have enough time, right? So
yeah,
what you would want to do is somehow you want to be how can I put it? Maximizing the effectiveness of the time that you have. You want to write for the entertainment industry in the United Kingdom, in London, right? And you're in China. Now, the obvious question is, why don't you try to work for the Chinese market?
Well, that's a question that I don't have an answer. I would say the market is very narrow.
The Chinese animation exists, you know, the Chinese film business exists. Hong Kong, you know, there's hell from the Bruce Lee, and since before then, they've been like Hong Kong movies. So I wonder why you're trying to aim for London, which is on the other side of the world, literally, as opposed to your own market right there. That is, as far as I know, it seems to be very vibrant. The Hong Kong scene.
Well, let's put it this way. I have a good friend of mine. I mean, I have been knowing about him like for the last maybe 15 years, let's say. I know about it when we were both young, and he is a comic, like a illustrator. I mean, he has his own character. He has been doing quite well in Hong Kong and in the Asia. But then the film industry is, I mean, even for him, he's one of the best in the Hong Kong market, but he couldn't go anywhere because it is just, I don't know the reason, but he couldn't make it, he couldn't break it through the limit. I mean, and when I look at him, I mean, he spent the last 10 years build all the reputation, and he's now at the top, but still going nowhere and going back to you know, taking commercial works, doing some small licensing work, you know, and really not doing quite well compared to the Western market. And I start to think that, I mean, would that be an issue because of the environment that we are in? There is a limit here, or should I just go
Well,
back
I'm not
to?
sure what you want me to tell. What you want me to tell you? See, because
Yeah,
you have like a lot. What seems to me is that you have several people in this industry in London and in Hong Kong that you have access to who are in this business, and you
right.
tell me that you don't have time, and that's your limiting factor. So I don't know what
Yeah,
you want me to tell you. See, because what I can tell you is, if you honestly think, hand to heart, not bullshitting yourself, but you truly think you could be commercially successful at this, then what you should do is tell your wife or your girlfriend or whatever, I don't know if you're married to her, the mother of your child, that you want to pursue this for a fixed period of time, say 2 years, and then give it your all, whether in Hong Kong or London or whatever. And if she doesn't support you, or you just don't have the money to be able to do this and to quit your job and to pursue this for 2 years, I don't know what to tell you. I can tell you the following. See, in every time, in everybody who's ever tried to be successful in the entertainment business, it's always been a huge struggle. It's always been a huge struggle. I mean, in
yeah,
my own
that's
case,
very
when I
true.
was working as you know, trying to make it as a novelist, make it as a writer rather in Hollywood, I had arrived, I was working as a temp job just to have rent. And I had to drive an hour to work. It was 8 hours there, plus an hour of lunch, plus an hour back. And so I basically had, when all was said and done, about 90 minutes per day to work. That was the best I could do. And on weekends, I had a little bit more time. But during those 90 minutes per day, well, I did everything that I could during those 90 minutes per day until I finally made it. That's all I can tell you, because it's by definition it's going to be difficult, you know, because if it were easy, everybody would succeed at it. You see, so I'm not clear what you want me to tell you, what you want me to tell you, Stephen. But my thinking is, if you can't quit your job, you need the job to pay the bills, then you're just going to have to buckle under and work as hard as you can in the free time that you have. I can't tell you anything else. What else can I tell you? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, because that's the reality. And look, life is hard. It's as simple as that. It sucks. And the thing is, see, a lot of times you see successful people on some TV show. They were successful in the entertainment business. They're a writer or director or whatever. And they seem to be very relaxed and very happy. And you think, oh, they must have had such an easy life. But for the most part, I'm talking the vast majority of those people, they had it really fucking miserable. It was really, really fucking hard. And you have no idea the kinds of sacrifices that they had to make in order to achieve what they wanted. And so you can't think to yourself, well, my conditions right now are not ideal. You have to think, well, this is what I have, and I have to make the best of it with what I got. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can't give you a better answer than that. I wish I could, but that's how life is.
Yeah. Thank you, Coach. I mean,
No,
I mean,
I wish you the best of luck. Please tell me, think through this situation and try to figure out a way to maximize your time. But the fact that you have limited time, well, that's just one of the difficulties that you're going to have to overcome. You're going to have to figure out on your own and try to get support from your woman and see if she can support you while you pursue this. That's the best I can do. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Catch you later, man. Great talking to you. Mr. Blue. Mr. Blue has his hand in the air. So, Mr. Blue, are you there?
Hey,
Hello.
Coach, how's it going?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Hi, can you? I'm doing all right. Doing all right. So yeah, so a couple of things. So one comment for all the guys that are going to go and eventually meet a woman, and then the next step is, do you want to commit, and do you want to get married and all that. So in general, right? I think a quick way to sort of look to see if someone is marriage material is look at her relationship to her father. If
Absolutely.
it's a good relationship, yeah, I think that's a quick
Yep.
yeah, I found that because I did.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No question.
I found
Look,
that with
it's a stereotype at this point, because every girl who has daddy issues, she's a disaster in any kind of relationship, and any girl who has a good relationship with her father, she's going to be aces. Yeah, every single time. I can say that. Yeah.
Now, the second part of that is make sure you understand the father. Because
Yeah.
sometimes people have an external, okay, well, I believe in this and I believe in that, and this is how my house is run. But it's very interesting, especially, so I'm Indian, my wife is Indian as well, but she's Fiji Indian. And
Mhm.
so I thought that wouldn't be an issue, but actually it is. There is a difference in culture. And sometimes, my brother who married a Jewish gal, so sometimes like you got these cucks, not cucks, but you got these guys that, so my father-in-law, he's a good guy, keeps his house in order. But when it comes to my wife's siblings, he doesn't stand for certain values. He just says, okay, well, they're the kids, they kind of, do what they do. They get divorced, they get tattoos, all this crap. But so I guess my point is that make sure you understand the father when times are good, when times are bad, more so or as much as you understand the wife. Not just that they get along, but that you understand how he is going to act in different situations.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that sounds
So,
interesting. I hadn't thought of it in those terms. I mean, I certainly had thought of the issue of like, a woman's relationship with her father is very indicative of her relationship with her man. And if she's got a good relationship with her father, she'll probably have a stable relationship with her husband or boyfriend. But if she has daddy issues, then it's always going to be disaster. This is a truism at this point. Every guy who pays attention to the whole man-woman thing has pretty much come to that same conclusion. But I hadn't thought of that issue of how her father actually is as a guy, as a man, how he acts as a man, as indicative of how his daughter would behave. That's interesting. I got to think about that. That's
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
yeah,
Thanks a lot, Mr.
I've
Blue.
been married now. Yeah, sure. I've been married now for almost 15 years. We have 2 boys, and everything's good, thank God. But it did take a lot of, you kind of have to distance your family from other families, and there's always a tricky part that comes to that.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like it. Great talking to you, Mr. Blue. I'll catch you next week.
Yeah, I just have one more question.
Shoot.
So last time we were talking about the Fed buying the junk bonds. Did you get a chance to look into that? And then the second, Buffett had his annual
Cream.
meeting
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah,
about
I
that.
wanted to see what your thoughts are on that.
I wasn't able to look at the bond issue, to tell you the truth, because this week I've been feeling kind of crappy. So yeah, just physically just feeling just like not very well. So I wasn't really able to look at the bond issue, because I'm at this point, you know, nothing is shocking insofar as the Fed is concerned. All I think is that they're just going to be printing money and doing every irresponsible thing imaginable, and I just have to pay attention to when the dollar will start to hyperinflate. And that's why my focus is going to be looking more closely at commodities. I mean, agricultural commodities, because that's my thinking that might be like the tipping point, the trigger, or the canary in the coal mine, call it what you will, of possible hyperinflation. Because I think that these guys are just clowns at this point. Insofar as Buffett, yeah, he got the shit kicked out of him with his airline bid. He reported that he lost 50 billion. Holy shit. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not crying tears for the guy, right? He's sitting on a mountain of cash. He's got like 137 billion in free cash. It's the largest pot
Yeah.
of free cash anywhere. It even eclipses Apple's free cash. So, you know, I'm wondering what's going to happen, right, on Monday. Yeah, Monday it's going to be some kind of day. I haven't looked at the futures yet because I've been doing their presentation. But after this presentation, I'm going to go and check out the futures and see, you know, what's in store for us tomorrow. But it looks ugly. It looks really damn ugly. So yeah, I don't get it, man. I think that, look, since the bottom on May 23rd of the markets, the stock has all recovered because of all kinds of just heroic measures by the Fed and the Treasury and whatnot, right? And investors in general just buying into, I mean, just drinking the Kool-Aid, just guzzling it down, right? They're all like,
On
oh,
lower,
this will blow over, right? But I'm wondering
yeah.
if this Buffett thing will be like the, uh-oh, this is really for real kind of shit, and it'll take a big tumble tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think shit's gonna hit the fan. You know, for a certain point. It's just that you have two opposing forces.
Yeah.
You get this huge rally, but I mean, you get this rally, but it's on lower volume if you look at the volume overall.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been saying, you know, get out because you can't really evaluate. You can't really put valuation on anything. The one thing, have you looked into oil, specifically USO, that ETF, and how they've sort of changed the duration of the oil contracts that they purchase?
No, was it so as to avoid the whole negative oil pricing situation?
Yeah, the contango. Yeah. So, you know, they were, I think they were buying monthly contracts, and then now they changed it. You know, they sort of staggered it, and they went out. So they went out further. I was reading a presentation on that, and yeah, that oil, and then some tankers right now that are being paid, you know, 4 to 5x normal profit for storing the oil.
Yeah, I heard that they're spending like 200 grand a day on those big oil
Yeah.
tankers, when before their price per day was like 30 to 40 grand. Yeah, that's goddamn funny if you ask me. Well, look, I have no idea what's going to happen, and it's because anything could happen. If you told me that oil triples in price, or oil, you know, falls to negative $100 a barrel, neither outcome would surprise me at this point. At this point, you know, anything can happen. And so that's why I'm just not invested in anything. You know, you want to call me a chicken shit, like, Coach Chicken Pill, you know, whatever, fine. That's fine. Because nothing makes any sense whatsoever. And when things don't make any sense at all, and if anything could happen, then why bother? That's my thinking. Why be miserable? Also, you got to keep in mind, I'm in a very, very happy position because I anticipated that things were going to go south. I didn't think that they were going to go south this badly, but I did anticipate that they were going to go south. And so ultimately, it's you know, I'm way ahead of the game. And so the idea of taking any risk now is for me ludicrous, because I am not trying to shore up a position. On the contrary, I'm trying to protect a very, very good position. And so that's why for me, I'm sort of like almost not even paying attention to shit right now, because I personally have made up my mind that I'm not going to invest in anything. I'm just not going to. I mean, I'm just going to observe it. I'll laugh at it. I'll comment about it, but I'm not going to stick even a pinky into the water because because anything can happen. If with this Buffett thing, for instance, if the markets fell 20% tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised. If the markets rose 5% tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised. I have no idea what's going to happen. Nobody does. We are way beyond uncharted territory. This is a completely new land that we're in. And so why bother? Do you see what I'm saying, Mr. Blue?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. You've already won the prize, and from your perspective, it definitely makes sense. I mean, to get out of 2020, you just want to, you want to be able to walk away from the table. My question is, the type of analysis and foresight that you had in setting up your short positions before this happened, that type of thinking smarts, that's something that we probably could use, and you would, but without you putting yourself in, in the mix.
I'm happy to give you my observations. This is my thinking at this point. The market is totally inflated. Okay, it's artificially inflated. It doesn't make any sense. There are people in the government and in the banks that do not want companies to deflate, but they need to deflate because they are overvalued and they are never going back to their old production levels. Like Boeing, for instance, that's a perfect example. Boeing, they're never going to sell the planes that they were selling before. They are never going back to being the old company that they were, because there's not going to be that amount of demand for air travel in the future, because it just isn't. Because getting people back on planes into little tubes up in the sky is going to be really goddamn difficult, because they are broke. The people are broke. And also because they're going to be scared of flying, because they think that they got so spooked by the whole coronavirus thing that they think that they can catch it anywhere, and so they're not going to get on the plane. Okay, and probably more determinately, they're broke. They can't fly. They don't have the money to fly, and so the airline industry is going to be at 6s and 7s for the foreseeable future. I'm talking the next 5 years, and therefore they're not going to be buying any plane from Boeing. They'd be crazy to. They don't have the cash to buy. They're just going to have to make do with the planes that they have, and it's going to be easy for them because there are going to be a lot of air service providers, leasing companies that are going to be desperate to lease their inventory and will lease out their planes for chump change in order just to get them going, right?
Let me ask you, Bo, I understand the airlines are screwed for a while. Do you? So there are two things in this unknown box. One, the American corporations and their connection to the U.S. government, and then their printing press and backed by the petrodollar. That's on one end. The other end is oil. Whenever a vaccine comes out, a year, 2 years, whatever happens, at some point, we're going to need to turn on our motors and go to work. We will need. So what are your thoughts on the long-term, price of oil? Isn't this a great time?
Low. It's just low. Simple as that. Because there isn't going to be the demand. The cars and the planes are just not going to be flying. By the way, you mentioned something that if a year or two we get the vaccine, we're never going to get a vaccine. Anybody who thinks that we're going to get a vaccine is smoking something, because there is no vaccine for any coronavirus. Period. Coronavirus is a category of viruses. We have not been able to figure out a vaccine for HIV. HIV has been around for 40 years, and they still haven't been able to figure out a vaccine. There are some viruses that, yes, they have developed by vaccines, like for instance polio, but for this, it doesn't seem likely. Okay, so this idea of like waiting around for a vaccine, I think it's ridiculous on the one hand, but that's just a parenthesis. Insofar as oil prices, it's never going to get back because the demand is gone. This is a demand-driven depression, not a supply-driven one. Okay, and so it's never coming back. That's the issue, and people just do not want to accept that the party's over, that the cool kids left the party, and the whole thing is winding down, and we don't have 500 people dancing, we have 50 people dancing, and they just too many people don't want to accept that because the valuations of all these companies would fall drastically if they were truly valued. Hello, Mr. Blue?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes,
I can hear
you.
you.
Hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine. What's up?
Okay. No, you faded out, so I was just saying I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think the party is different. It definitely is different. But yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts.
No problem. Dragos has been. Let me get to Dragos. Hey, Dragos, are you there?
Yes.
Hello.
Hey.
What's up?
Can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
What's on your mind?
I didn't expect you to put me through. I don't know. I was just asking random questions just to get in touch with you for the sake of it. But I don't know. You once said that you are the people of color from people of
Yeah,
color.
I was joking. I think that's just bullshit. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay then. I don't care about that.
No, I just think it's stupid. Oh, I'm a little POC. Help me. Huh? I'm oppressed. Bitch, I oppress the others. I'm not oppressed. No, I don't believe in being oppressed. I believe in oppressing others. That's my thoughts of it. You said something here that was kind of interesting. You said, do you think this lockdown is the most idiotic thing in the history of mankind? You wrote that, right?
Yeah.
That short answer, yeah, I think it is the most idiotic thing in the history of mankind.
Thank you.
What?
Thank you, I said. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that retrospectively, look, retrospectively, we're realizing why this happened. Because the lack of information from China scared the shit out of people. And reasonably, okay? I was scared shitless. The fact that they were, locking up people, boarding up apartments and letting them all die in an apartment block and, arresting people and men in suits, in white suits, tossing people into the backs of vans and shit.
Yeah.
It looked fucking scary, okay? And
Yeah.
they didn't want to release any information. The information they were releasing was just so much bullshit. I mean, even me with zero knowledge of this kind of stuff, just glanced at it, just said, this doesn't make any sense, right? You wouldn't go to that kind of effort if it were this few. And anyway, because they didn't release information and we all thought it was much more serious than it actually was. I'm realizing also something else, that the Chinese overreaction to COVID-19 was not because so many people were dying, but because they knew that they had caused it and they were embarrassed. And they were trying to make it disappear as quickly, as effectively as possible, instead of just ignoring it and letting it burn through the population. And so because of that, the rest of the world thought, holy shit, this is a pandemic. We are all gonna fucking die. And they closed up everything. And after a few weeks, not everybody died. It wasn't that bad. And now it's pretty clear that the number of deaths is kind of stable and that this is just a very, very bad flu, but it's not the end of the world. It's not gonna, wipe out life on Earth as we know it. And yeah, the decision to quarantine at the time made some sense. It stopped making sense around mid-April. And by now it makes no sense whatsoever. It's stupid. And it's causing much more damage than it's preventing. But the people in political power at this time, they want to continue the lockdown because they have more power. And they like that feeling of having more power and they want it to continue. And so that's the problem. That's what's going on in the Western democracies, it seems to me. Is this the most idiotic decision ever made in the history of mankind? Yeah, I think, yeah. I think, you know, in terms of actual bad outcomes, like measured by money and the destruction of lives in terms of like depression, lost income, lost businesses, and all the rest of it. Yeah, I think that this is the most idiotic decision in the history of mankind. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that I understand, bro, and thank you very much.
Well,
I don't have anything to say. Just it's been a very artistic webinar. I don't know, very articulate, very descriptive.
well,
I don't. It's very good what I mean.
I'm so glad. I thank you very much. I very much appreciate that, Dragos. That's very kind of you to say. Take it easy, man. I'll catch you next week, okay?
Yeah, see you. Bye.
Take it easy. Okay, guys, I've bored you enough. It's coming up on 3 hours since this presentation, so I'll end it here. But I just want to end with a last note to you all. In this here in this outline to the webinar, right? Where I said, you know, improve your soul, and I talk about, you know, the active meditation, which, like I said, I think is very important. That finding something mundane for an hour or so and focusing on that and letting your mind rest. I think it's very important because you can find a lot of insights into yourself during that period of time. But the most important, I think, are the last three: reconciling yourself to your past, facing who you are today, and imagining whom you want to be. This is the hardest thing. And the great philosophers of the West, they all focused on this. What is a good life? That ultimately is the issue. What is a good life? How do you define it? Well, each of us defines it in our own terms, what is best for us. But I think that what you really want to be focusing on is facing up to who you are today and looking at yourself as you actually are. Looking at yourself, and then from then looking back to see how it was that you arrived at the man you are today, and then looking forward to the man that you want to become. I think that you should focus on this. If anything from this webinar discussion, focus on these three issues: who you are, who you once were, or let me phrase it, how you arrived to be this man that you are, and who it is that you want to become. Focus on that during this time of quarantine. Anyway, guys, it's been great talking to you, and I will catch you next week. Take it easy.